In a world where voices are silenced,
Please.
one man refuses to lie down.
It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
He's been punted not once,
40 years they've been trying.
not twice,
You couldn't fire somebody if they were horrible, doing a terrible job.
but 3 times.
You're fired.
He doesn't tell you what to think, but gives you something to think about. Welcome to the Bonafide Podcast with Luke Bonar. And he's not
All right, here we go.
done
Hold your ears, folks.
yet.
It's showtime.
Yeah, g'day, and welcome to episode 93 on this so far cloudy, overcast day, which is supposed to be 30 degrees, but thunderstorms where we are in Sydney, but where you are, it could be anything. So we're streaming live today, Thursday the 26th, and then we're on the road. We'll talk about that in just a second. We're taking the show on the road. I get dragged along to these things. The millennial just says, we're doing this on Thursday at 7:15, whether you like it or not. So here I am. I've already had a very busy morning this morning. I was on 2GB with Mike Jeffries for the usual Thursday Boner Report. That was interesting. I'll tell you about that in a second, but we've got to get some housework done first. Some of you are listening to this on the regular podcast feed, so welcome, but you can participate. And you ring, we've got our lovely receptionist ready to go.
Yes, my fiance.
Nathan, he's ready. Just ring him and bother him. Just ring him up and say, is the answer India?
Don't do that.
Because he thinks it's hilarious. He can't get enough of it.
He does not understand that reference whatsoever.
Haven't you played it to him yet?
No.
That's a shame. But anyway, so we're here doing this live, and then we've got the Man Cave coming up also live with Scotty Phillipson, the Vice Captain. Adam McDonald, the Millennial, will join us. So anything can happen. I've just had a really interesting chat with Jonathan Kersley, the Sky News Washington Bureau Chief, about the latest news that's come in from overseas, Millennial. The question we're all asking is, are we close to the beginning of the end of the fracas between the United States, Israel and Iran and quite a few other countries in between?
Are we?
What's happened is Pakistan is playing the intermediary in all of this. They're the mediators. Now, usually it's Qatar, but Qatar has been affected by Iran and has been bombed by Iran. So Qatar's not the neutral body that's probably best to take place in negotiations. So Pakistan has said, we'll do this, and they are doing it, and they're having conversations between Israel, the United States, and Tehran. Now, what's happened overnight, and look, it's still a bit sketchy, but Caroline Levitt has said that the United States has put to Iran a 15-point peace plan. Ask me what's in that 15-point peace plan.
What's in the peace plan, Luke?
No one knows.
Oh, right.
But the president and commander-in-chief, Donald Trump, says that things are going along really well and hopefully will come to some sort of a ceasefire very, very soon. Iran has also said, well, these are the things we want. They want sovereignty. They want to run their own race. And they have also said, well, okay, well, we won't develop nuclear weapons, but we still want our missiles. The United States says, well, those missiles can only have a range of X. And we don't ask me what X is.
What's X?
No one knows.
Right.
So, look, there's a 15-point plan. We really don't know what's in the 15-point plan, but that's the latest overnight. And you'll have the full details if you listen to the podcast when Kelsey drops it a little bit later on with Jonathan Kersley.
And Luke, who else is going to be in the podcast tonight? I'll tell you, Shane Oliver.
Shane Oliver. Shane Oliver is the chief economist with AMP, and we'll have some really interesting points to talk about that affect you and your hip pocket.
Ooh.
Yeah. Who else? Jonathan Kersley.
Yeah. No. Mark Ainsworth.
Mark Ainsworth. Okay. Now, Mark Ainsworth, he is a now retired former chief inspector in the Queensland Police, and he has been instrumental in the incarceration of some very nasty people. But he was very, very instrumental in the Gerard Baden Clay murder trial. Gerard Baden Clay's behind bars, but he's up for parole next year. He was found guilty of killing his wife, Alison. Guilty as hell, if you ask me. Absolutely guilty as hell. Do you remember he had the scratch marks down his face?
Yeah. What did he say they were from? Caterpillars.
No, that was the rash on his chest.
Oh, right.
No,
right.
the scratches on his face, he said, were from shaving. They brought in a forensic expert who had incidentally, while studying medicine, had done a full thesis on scratch marks. So she was more than qualified. I mean, there was a jackpot.
Yeah.
They got an expert. They didn't realise how expert she was.
Yeah.
She says those scratches were not made with a razor blade. They were from most probably fingernails. They were inconsistent with a razor blade. And when the police arrived at Gerard Baden Clay's house after he reported her missing, by the way, before he reported her missing, he contacted his lawyer.
Which is so, like, that is so guilty.
And then checked on Alison's life insurance. Anyway, he's up for parole, and Mark Ainsworth will run us through that trial. And I hope to talk to him again.
Isn't it interesting that when it comes to parole, victims have no say in that process, which, I mean, I don't know. I'm not an expert on this, so I don't know if that's like the best way to do it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It is a tricky one. And often the victims aren't even told if they're released, which is frightening, isn't it? You know?
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the way it is. Now, I just want to, and this is probably something for you and Nathan and people like Trevor Long to absorb, but there was a huge trial it's been going on a month now in the United States on Meta and their responsibility to their customers. And Mark Zuckerberg, this is a massive, massive case.
Yeah.
Meta have been found guilty. There was a case where a woman said that she suffered depression, anxiety, and all kinds of mental health issues brought on by social media. And it's been found that Meta, and this is the benchmark, Kelsey, were irresponsible and encouraged an addictive form of social media and deliberately went about it. So now I'm sure there'll be an appeal. Zuckerberg's got a few bob up his sleeve, right?
Yeah.
However, it's a benchmark case, and every other social media platform now will be absolutely pooing themselves because this is going to lead to billions of similar cases going to court, and now you have a precedent.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, Mark Zuckerberg, I think it was in his Hawaii home, created like the world's biggest bunker, like doomsday bunker, and it's got everything in it. I mean, I feel like that's a good use of millions of dollars. With the way the world's going at the moment, you'd feel pretty chuffed with that.
Well, I mean, how many people feel as though they've been manipulated by their devices and the social media platforms, portraying them and utilising them deliberately so that you become addicted? Now, you could argue, well, that's up to the individual. Anything can be addictive: gambling, cigarettes, drugs, alcohol. But this has gone a step further, and it's huge. I thought it would take longer than a month, but it's been about a month in court, and the jury has come out. So watch this space. We need to get Trevor Long on for his interpretation when he can absorb it. But this news is just coming through now overnight.
Yeah. Interesting. I feel like TikTok is way more addicting than Facebook.
Never done it.
Yeah, Luke, please don't ever get on TikTok.
I've only just learned how to use the emojis on my phone.
Oh, God, this has been the bane of my existence.
And have you noticed every message I send you now?
I know.
I sent one to my stepdaughter, Katie Chook,
Yeah.
the other day. She said, "Yeah, me and Atticus are coming around on Wednesday," and I said, "Great," and I put an exclamation point, and then it offered me an emoji. So I put the thumbs up, and then a page opened. So I put a tick.
I can't believe this is new news for you.
There was a whole row of emojis, and I said, "I've just learnt where the emoji page is." And And her reply was, "Oh God,
God help us all."
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah. I feel exactly the same way because that is.
So anyway, I'm not likely to get on to the TOC, as my kids call it.
Yep. Never, ever do that.
Wasn't there, didn't we talk to Trevor Long about the TOC, which comes out of China?
Please don't call it the TOC.
That's what Jacob calls it.
Right.
And Holly calls it the TOC.
Right. Okay.
Isn't it, aren't there issues with China spying on us through the TOC?
Oh, everyone's spying on us all the time. Like at this point, like we're just giving our data away for free and I don't really care.
If you want to participate, 0291289311, you can get on air now because we are live. Do I say on air?
I guess so. We're on the stream. But Luke, do you want to dig into some headlines?
We love the news. Something to think about. Something to laugh about.
With Mike Jeffries on 2GB this morning, we were discussing Anthony Albanese's latest thought bubble. Well, it's not a thought bubble because this came into force January 1, and here we are March 26, but it's about cash. Now, we have been heading down a cashless society for a long, long time now, but here are the rules. Let me tell you the rules,
okay?
Because One Nation's gone off its nut over this, and I get it. But these are the rules by which the Albanese government, as I say, brought into force on January 1, are going to require most large grocery and fuel retailers, there are still some fuel retailers out there, to take reasonable steps to accept cash, because a lot of retailers now are saying we don't take cash. The big retailers do, but some people don't. And just let me say this. There are some small businesses who are exempt from this because you have to have a yearly turnover of $10 million. If you have a turnover less than $10 million, you're exempt.
Yeah.
So they are talking about the big players here. But some retailers are refusing cash outside of 7 a.m. and 9 p.m.
What?
I'm just telling you what's happened, okay?
Yeah.
And they want the government to take reasonable steps to do away with this. So here it is. Retailers will take up the reasonable steps to accept cash for in-person purchases of up to $500 between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. Small businesses with an annual turnover below $10 million are exempt, while retailers can refuse cash outside those hours for transactions above $500. Now, there are some retailers that like cash.
Yeah.
Okay, they can keep a little bit under the bed, not have to claim to the taxation department their real earnings, and they're getting around the system that way. Some small businesses that I've spoken to actually like electronic transactions because it's all there in front of them.
Yeah.
Every part of their business is on a computer spreadsheet, and you hand it over to your accountant. Here are my outgoings, here are my ingoings, and here's what my tax should be, and we can keep track of it. Also, if you're carrying lots of cash, you're more susceptible to robbery.
Yeah.
And then you've got to spend time, Kelsey, counting the cash, having a book, filling out the book, and then putting your cash and your change into a white cotton bag and going to the bank and depositing it, which takes time.
Yeah, no one does that these days, surely.
But some businesses will say, yeah, but if every transaction is electronic, there's a fee that goes with that. Well, if you're smart, you can shop around, or you can, if it's only a 2% fee or a 1.8% fee, you charge that extra cost onto your customers. So there's that. So anyway, One Nation is saying you shouldn't put a limit on cash. People have the right to have cash. Cash is, after all, Australian currency, and it's un-Australian not to accept cash. Now, I'll just take your memory back a few years to the great
Depression?
1929, to the great Bob Catter, who
Yeah.
was in the parliamentary dining room having lunch.
Yeah. Oh, this. Yep. Keep going.
The fish dinner.
Yeah.
And he pulled out his wallet and took some folding out.
Yeah.
And they said, we don't accept cash. Well, he went off, didn't he?
Yeah.
And most of Australia was with him.
Yeah.
Mind you, it's a heavily supplemented dining room, the one in Canberra. So his $18 fish lunch probably would have cost us $26. But anyway, his point was taken and he went off and he got a lot of news coverage out of it. So,
I don't understand. Howard here says, I love cash, grew up on cash, cash is the best. I don't understand. Like, for me, cash is like free money almost. You know, when you've got cash in your wallet, it doesn't feel like real money because it's like out of the bank account.
No, you're kidding.
I don't understand why it's so much more convenient with like just tapping everything as you go. I don't understand like this whole we must have cash type thing.
Well, I'm going to tell you something for nothing.
What?
Your mum, this is the Minister for War and Finance, she often, once a week, will get my wallet and she'll say, and she'll put some money in there.
Yeah.
A couple of pineapples and a lobby.
Okay.
A pineapple is a 50,
Yeah.
the colour, and a lobster is a 20.
Oh, right. Yes. Okay. Yep.
Couple of pineapples and a lobby.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense now.
Now, and she'll say, only spend this. Well, can I just say this? And this might just be me, but I spend less when I'm using cash because I physically watch it disappear.
No.
It goes out of my wallet into someone's cash register and you see it disappear. And I become more thrifty. I spend a lot less when I'm only using cash. When I've got the card, it's so easy to just tap and you're done. And you don't feel the pain until you get your bank statement. I reckon cash saves you money.
No, I'm the other way around. To me, cash is free money.
Well, you're mad.
Yeah, it's like Monopoly money because I'm so used to tapping and because I'm actually digitally literate, I can see what's in my bank account all the time. I get notifications when I spend money. So I don't. Yeah, we have opposing views there, I guess.
Me, I spend less if I'm only using cash. I spend a lot more when I'm tapping because it's painless until the bill comes in. I would love your feedback on all of this. 0291289311. A lot of people saying, people who are hoarding cash, cheating on their tax, cheating on what really their income is. Well, guess what? That's what the GST was designed for, because the GST stands for what, Kelsey?
I don't know.
Goods and services tax.
Oh, that's right.
Okay,
yeah.
in some countries in the UK, they used to call it a VAT, or in the United States, value-added tax. But it's a goods and services tax. So even if you're cheating on your tax and you're cheating on your revenue and cheating on your income, the moment you spend that money, you're getting taxed because you're paying a GST on things you buy. So the swings and roundabouts. However, when John Howard first introduced the GST, and incidentally, he went into an election telling Australia, this is what we're going to do, and he won.
Oh.
Not many people win elections saying we're going to introduce a tax.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And he went into that election announcing this is what they were going to do, and he won the election.
Yeah.
But to get it through the Senate, he had to do some deals. And I think that they were reasonable. One, you cannot have GST on food.
Yeah.
You cannot have GST on certain essential items. Now, for a long time there was debate. Women's sanitary products were subject to GST, which I think was unfair.
Yeah.
It's an essential product. Even if only 50% of the population needs it, it's still something you need. Certain pharmaceuticals then became GST free. So there are some exemptions, but you go and buy a box of beer, with the cash that you've hoarded and not claimed to the tax department, you're still paying tax.
Free money.
You're still paying tax on that box of beer because you charge GST. You charge GST for every service you get, unless the tradie says, I'll give you a separate quote for cash.
Yeah. Now, Luke, how's this? Emily, she's saying hi from Canada,
And she's
Calgary.
listening now.
Yeah, she's commenting. And also we've got, Who we got? Jason from Queensland.
On the phone?
No,
Talk
in
on
the
the phone.
comments.
Okay.
Oh, you're desperate.
I don't have. Oh, I like talking to people on the phone.
Yeah, you do.
0291289311. Do you spend less when you only spend cash? Are you like me, or do you call it monopoly money like the millennial? God, strike me pink.
I think most young people would
How
have
did you
that
get a
opinion.
deposit together for your place? For your
It's because
flat?
I save for it in my banking account. I don't have any cash on me.
Yeah, but you were using monopoly money that was converted to electronic.
No, but we just never had cash on us ever.
Who does the budget in your household? Who's
Oh, Nathan. Nathan loves the budget. Nathan has got it all sorted. In fact, Nathan will help our friends with their budgets. That's how much he loves a budget.
Well, your mum is absolutely ruthless. And every statement that comes through, she gets a
Oh, no, but...
she gets a highlighter.
No, but...
And then comes to me and says, how much money are you spending at Dan Murphy's?
Yeah. Well, you know what, though? Because mum's accountant, because, for the business, she comes over, we all collate,
Bess.
Bess, yeah. And it's hilarious because every single time mum hasn't paid something because she refuses to put on autopay.
Yeah,
Right?
my phone bill. Remember that?
Yeah, it refuses to put on autopay. I don't understand what her qualm is with autopay.
She doesn't trust it.
But why? Because she
it's-
forgets.
because-
She forgets to pay it herself, and then the internet doesn't work.
Because she doesn't understand the cloud, so she doesn't trust it. A bit like me in Bitcoin. Shane Oliver has never encouraged or in his life invested in Bitcoin. You want to know why?
Why?
Doesn't understand it.
Yeah, that's true. I know, but still, it's autopay. Like it would make her life so much easier.
She doesn't
I don't
trust
get it.
She doesn't like her money going out into the ether, but she trusts me with my tap and go card.
Well, big mistake.
She has taken it off me, I think twice in 20 years. Anyway, so there's some interesting news.
Just another hello here, Steve from the cold, wet, and windy UK.
Yeah.
Is it always cold, wet, and windy there?
Well, that's why they want to live here.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Now, Luke, can you tell me about what's happening with the e-bikes?
Well, it's a funny thing, this. Well, it's not funny. It's tragic because kids are dying on e-bikes. And you've got these bikes that cost about $3,000 and they're either being sold hot, and that means they're already improved, they're being tinkered with, or they're easy to improve yourself. And so now, for example, in Queensland, they're introducing legislation whereby you cannot have an e-bike or ride an e-bike if you're over the age of 16. And, okay, well, fair enough. But some schools have actually taken this into their own hands. And there are some schools, I sent you the list of them, where they've gone, the states and territories are taking way too long to come to some sort of jurisdiction over what the rules surrounding e-bikes are. We're going to take this into our own hands and take our own initiative. There's one school near here, and it was published online, and I did send it to you. You can read their rules out when you bring it up. You are in order to take an e-bike to school, it has to be registered. They have to know who owns it. You have to undergo a road safety learning program. And the schools have said, unless you follow these e-bike rules, you cannot bring it to school. Now, as I say, the schools have gone, the states and territories have dragged the chain on this for way too long. Kids are dying. We're going to do something about it ourselves.
I just don't understand what's taking so long, honestly.
Yeah, because when you make legislation, you've got to please so many people. This is why I'm a big fan of a dictatorship. Get elected once. Say, here's my manifesto. Here are my rules. Now piss off all of you and let me introduce it.
Now, Luke, we have Jason on the line. Do you want to say hi to Jason? Remember to turn up your fader. Remember that one? There you go.
G'day, Jason. Thanks for joining us live.
Yeah, g'day, mate. How's it going?
Yeah, good.
Good. So the cash situation.
Yeah.
So, look, me personally, I'm cash all the way. Love it.
Why?
Okay, so one reason is if I take $100 and go and spend it at the store, and then he takes $100 and he goes and spends it down at the butcher's, and then he goes and takes $100 and he spends it at the service station, and he takes $100 and it's all cash, that $100 is worth $100 all the way through the chain. If you go and tap your card, they take your $1.50 out. So that $100 is now worth $99 or $98.50. Then they go and use that somewhere else, and then it's worth less, and then it's worth less, and then it's worth less. So your actual value is diminishing as it goes through the chain, because every time you use that, the bank takes their little, or the transfer fees or whatever, they take their little bit of a bite out of your money, or the money that's through the chain. The other thing is, for kids, I think it's good because it gives them a tangible idea of this is how much money you've got, and this is how much money it costs, and they've done work for you during the week. They've got their money, and then they go, hang on, I've just done all this work and I've given it away. So as you said before, it makes you a little bit more thrifty, and it gives a better understanding, a physical understanding of the value of money.
Yeah, but did you hear what Kelsey said? This is why the country's going to shit. She said, oh, cash isn't real money, it's monopoly money.
Well, it just feels like that.
Because it's not tangible.
Yeah.
It's not something you've got in your hands. You can't hold it.
No, but that's what I feel about, like, physical cash. I feel like physical cash to me is like monopoly money, because it, like, I tap everything. So when I've got physical cash on me, I'm just like, oh, it's free money.
It's not, Kelsey.
But that's the problem. That's the thought and the misconception of the reality.
Yeah.
That's the problem. That is the problem. Jason?
I've actually gone into shops. I've gone in with 10 grand to go and buy music equipment. And I went to 3 shops before I found one that would actually accept a cash payment.
Oh, wow.
So 2 of those shops in the chain, they missed out on $10,000 worth of revenue.
I think,
The first one missed out on
10 grand.
The second one missed out on 10 grand. The third one got the money because he accepted cash.
10 grand is the threshold. Maybe they should have gone to 9,999. You can't pay. You can't pay for anything in cash that's 10 grand or above.
I realise that, because if you go to the bank, they want to know why you're taking the cash out. I got in trouble one day to say I wanted to take $14,000 cash out for several purchases.
Yeah.
And they said, what's it for? And I told them I was going to buy worms.
Worms?
And they asked me, what, worms? I said, live bait. I'm going fishing, and live bait's expensive.
Oh, yeah. Fair enough.
It's nothing to do. It's nothing to do with them. If I take my money and I put it in their institution, that's my money, and I put it in their institution, and they utilise it. It's nothing to do with them about what I spend my money on.
Yeah, fair enough. I get that. I understand that. I don't think the bank should have any say over where you spend your money.
But they do. Jason, you're 100%. I've had people ring me when I was on radio, and they go into withdraw cash, not 10 grand, 3. And the teller has said, we want to know why you want it. And he said, "No, mind your own business. It's my money. It's in my account." And they ask you what you want the money for.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's my money. I can spend it on what I want.
Yeah.
Here.
Well done, Jason.
No, I think they should still stick around with cash. Cash should still be a part of the Australian economy, and it should still float around. And you should be able to spend your money wherever you want.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. Jason, where are you?
I'm actually from Mildura, but I'm in Bendigo at the moment. So.
Okay, just observation. Tell me, are all the petrol stations open? Are any of the Bowsers closed?
There's a couple in Bendigo that are. I've been talking. I'm a truck driver. I'm having time off from a hip replacement at the moment. Talking to some of the boys that are running around the countryside, and they said it's just getting absolutely ridiculous. Like a lot of the smaller ones throughout on the routes up just from Mildura to Sydney and up through to Brisbane, they're closed. My company deals with BP. We use some of the big service stations, so they've always got fuel for the trucks and everything. But around Bendigo here, there's probably yesterday there was about 4 of them, I think. That were out of fuel, completely out of fuel.
Yeah, it's frightening. And you had the government saying there's nothing to worry about here. Now, next Monday, Albanese's going to hold another federal cabinet meeting to talk about the fuel crisis. And the moment you say crisis, that encourages panic buying.
Exactly.
And then if you don't say it's a fuel crisis, you're accused of lying and misleading people. You can't win.
No, there's no, it's a no-win situation. I think it's just a case of we've got to ride it out, and things will come to a head one way or another.
Yeah. What sort of truck is it, by the way?
Mine.
Yeah.
I drive a Scania. I drive a Euro.
Okay, so is that diesel?
Yeah, diesel.
How much a litre?
How does it chew up? Oh, how much a litre to fuel it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
how much a litre did it cost you last time you went to the Bowser?
I've been off work for 3 weeks now, and
Right.
it was $1.85, and the guys are saying that it's like up around $3.14. I think up at Marul and the one that we use up there, it's about $2.85 or something like that. They were saying.
Yeah, all right.
All right. It's getting scary.
Listen, Jason, really appreciate you calling through live on the Bonafide podcast. You've been great. Thank you very, very much.
Cheers, mate. You have a good one.
Actually, can we put Jason back to Nathan, and I'm going to give you a month's supply of Nature B for being our first live.
First caller.
Yeah.
I can do. Well, we'll have to call you back because I don't know how to do that on this setting.
Yeah.
See,
you're going to have to add that to your skills list.
I know. We've got your number though,
Jason. Yeah.
So
In fact,
we'll organise
I'm
it.
feeling quite generous. I'm going to give away more Nature B.
Have you even asked that you can do this?
I have authority.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
It's called delegated authority, and I can give away Nature B. I can give away the Power Pollen soap. I can give away whatever I want, Kelsey. Power Pollen Nature B. 1-800-147-009.
Oh my God.
Listen.
Wait, Luke, can I just read this out to you? This is from Helen. We on the coal mines miss you on the night shift. Last night we didn't even have the ABC. Podcasts were king. Most of the night I caught up on your podcast. Oh, thanks, Helen.
I'm going to have more to say about the ABC strike during the Man Cave, but can I give you a little hint? The ABC went on strike yesterday. They want more money and better conditions. This is, I find unbelievable. I think the only people who really suffered was Sky News because they ran out of content because Sky News spends about 98% bucketing the ABC and they had nothing, they had no content. Let me just say this, and I'll elaborate later on, so stay with us because we're continuing live with the Man Cave. If you're going to go on strike, it's probably a good idea to be working in an industry where your services will be missed.
Hey, I think their services will be missed.
Nah, let me just tell you. If doctors went on strike, when the nurses go on strike, even teachers, the wharfies, look, if the truckies held another Razorback because they're sick of being penalised too harshly by the government, if every truckie went on strike like they did at Razorback in 1979, they'd be missed. Let me just tell you, to give yourself leverage when you go on strike, make sure you work in an industry where the general public will miss you.
Oh, I think I would miss them.
Anyway, I think really the cocaine dealers in the eastern suburbs of Sydney would have more leverage than staff at the ABC.
Oh, now we've got a comment here from Robert. Shell on Bribey Road, Queensland, jumped last night for unleaded from $2.47 to $2.57. Diesel is now $3.10.
And I'm going to tell you something. Now, if that petrol at that inflated price was bought by that company at the old price, what are they doing putting it up?
Yeah.
The only argument would be, well, our costs of living have gone up now. The deliveries that we get now have gone up. So we're making leeway for that. But there are some restaurants, and there's a restaurant, I believe, in Sydney that is talking about putting a $5 a head surcharge on meals above $50. Now, if you go to a restaurant and have 3 courses, you'll get to $50 because their costs have gone up.
Yeah.
Really?
You know, I just know the next time I try to order an Uber, it's going to be a ridiculous price. But you were talking before about the truckies, and yes, you are right. Obviously, that is an industry that we can't live without. And I have seen on Facebook some rumblings about a park up.
We're going to talk to Rod Hannafy about it. I sent it to you. I sent you that story yesterday.
Oh, yeah. There's stories about it, but there are, our friend of the podcast, Ashley, the truck instructor, pretty sure that group is also, looking or at least talking to truckies and trying to get an understanding of, who can actually survive on this. Shane has just said here, Just seen diesel for $3.27.
Yeah. So it makes everything really, really costly. Folks, and you'll hear this in the news today, but there are farmers that are saying we are better off leaving our crops in the ground and letting them rot because the cost of harvesting them and shipping them off to market or to the distributors is way beyond what we're going to get paid for our asparagus and our lettuce and, and whatever. And they're saying we may as well leave our crops in the ground.
Isn't that sad? Isn't that sad? All that food.
Yep.
It's sad. I don't like it.
Now, just getting back to this, because I can see the vice captain's getting set up, ready to go from Evans Hastings for the man cave. Looking forward to that. So there was talk of putting a $40 fuel limit per customer on petrol. It was debunked. And mind you, this idea has been around since 2019.
Yeah.
But they said, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. It was just a thought bubble. I mean, so let's just say you drive into a servo and you're only allowed $40 worth of fuel. What's to stop you going up the road to another servo and getting another $40?
Yeah, that's true.
They didn't think of that, did they?
Yeah, but also it would just, because people would just like go to a different servo, but $40 is nothing. $40 is nothing. It's not getting you anywhere.
We're on the road. We're going to Kangaroo Valley for
today.
And we're deciding whether or not we take my 6.3 litre V8.
No, I think it's a really bad idea.
Or Nikki's hybrid.
Yeah, I still think I feel like the hybrid is the way to go.
Yeah.
But you know what I find interesting is that the EV sales are actually going through the roof. There was one dealership that sold 25 EVs in like 2 days, and whereas usually they would sell 8 in a month.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I would prefer a hybrid still.
Yeah, I like hybrids. Mum's car's good. She's got a Lexus.
Yeah, so anyway, we'll decide what vehicle we're going to take. What else is happening in the world?
What else is happening in the world? Oh, lots is happening in the world.
Oh, is this for the man cave?
What?
The song.
What song?
Oh, wait, we had a new song.
Oh no! So we had a listener, Jonathan.
Oh, yeah.
I think we have sparked a little bit of an AI song revolution.
That's what I was talking about.
Because Jonathan sent us a song that he has made on AI, and it's called "Work On Through." It's a song for truckies. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah.
Days rolling to the night, high beams cutting through the blacktop lights. Sometimes I forget to leave them shining strong, flashing other drivers when something's wrong. Rose on the shoulder, eyes in the dark. Every bend ahead leaves a little mark. White lines drifting, tires humming low. Got that diesel rhythm everywhere I go. Coffee's gone cold in the cup, I'm outside. Photo of the kids keep me steady on this ride. This road gets lonely, but I hold on tight. Just doing my job in the dead of night. High beams on, yeah, I'm rolling through. Half the world asleep, but I'm pushing through. Radio crackling, singing old songs, trying to feel like I still belong. Call back home just to hear their voice. Out here on the road ain't much of a choice. Working these miles, just doing my part, keeping this.
Well, just how did Australia find itself in the pickle that it's in as far as fuel supply is concerned? Did you know 20 years ago, Australia had 12 oil refineries operating? We now have 2. And I think I know the reason for this, and it's a bipartisan problem. Governments on both sides of politics have contributed to this, and I think it's probably mostly a cost-saving measure. Refineries acquire a lot of infrastructure, a lot of upkeep, and expensive wages. But we belong to the IEA, the International Energy Agency. And part of the charter, or part of the rules of belonging to the IEA, is that you must have 90 days of usable fuel at any one time. Here in Australia, we've only ever had 30 to 35 days. Well, how did we get away with this? Well, it looks okay on paper in the eyes of the IEA, but it's all falling down like a house of cards now because a majority of that fuel that we're required to store is stored. It's stored in America. And I don't know when the government last looked, but we're girt by sea. So it has to get here by boat. It can't get here by train, and it can't get here via Zoom. We've got a bit of a problem. I don't know if this new deal that Australia is trying to sew up with Singapore is going to work, but at the moment, our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, is fiercely negotiating with Asian counterparts amid revelation 6 fuel tankers from Malaysia, Singapore and South Korea, who, by the way, are Australia's biggest suppliers, have been cancelled or deferred as their refineries are also grappling with no oil flowing out of the Middle East. There's a hell of a lot to talk about and how this is affecting the economy, and who better to talk to about all of that than Shane Oliver, Chief Economist with AMP. Good Lord.
Good Lord.
Good morning, Shane.
Luke.
We're in a dilemma. We haven't, and there's also talk now, and it has to be agreed upon by all the states and territories, that we reintroduce fuel rationing. Who would have thought? We haven't had fuel rationing in Australia since 1979, when we saw the Iranian Revolution, and before that it was World War II. Shane, a lot for you to get through and explain for us today. And the thing I love about you is, after all the years of knowing you, I have no idea of your political leanings. I have no idea which way you vote.
That's good.
You just tell us what the economics are and the reasons, and that's why I really, really like you. So, Shane, take us through it. First of all, how did we get ourselves in this pickle? How have we gone from 12 refineries to just 2?
Well, it's even worse than that, Luke. If I go back to the 1980s, we were oil self-sufficient. So not only did we get our own oil out of the ground, mostly from the Bass Strait, some years we were actually a net exporter of oil.
Wow.
We also refine that oil in Australia. So you can have a crisis somewhere else and we would sail through it. We would see the higher prices because the pricing is set globally. So you'd pay more at the pump, but we'd still normally have the fuel. Now, there have been, as you mentioned, problems in the 70s. 1979 was exacerbated. There was the Iranian Revolution, which had some impact, but the real issue was strikes at refineries.
Right.
And of course, then I think the mechanism to ration was odds and evens. So you
yes, I remember. I remember, yeah.
Yeah, so these days number plates are a bit complicated, but I still think there are odds and evens in this. They probably still do that. But over the years, the oil in the Bass Strait ran down. We didn't do a lot more exploration. Maybe there was good reason for that because world oil prices were lower than we can, than we're making it economic in Australia to produce oil here. And then, of course, starting around, I think, 2012, a lot of our refineries closed down to the point we've now got 2. Most of those closures occurred under the coalition. So they have to take part of the blame for this. And yes, you are right. We are meant to have 90 days worth of fuel in reserve. And that includes, of course, jet fuel, diesel and petroleum. And we're somewhere between 30 and 35 coming into this crisis. Apparently a decade ago, it was even lower than that. The Morrison government did do that deal with the US to have oil in America. I could never understand the logic to that. Apparently that deal is been changed now, and the Labor obviously did something to it. But whatever it is, it's only just north of 30 days, and I guess that's running down as well. So we do have this situation now where 80 to 90% of our oil comes from somewhere else, and most of that is refined. 80 to 90% of that comes from Asia. You mentioned many of those countries there. Singapore is the big one. My understanding on average is that we get about 25, 26% of our refined product from Singapore, but I've also read that it's up 50% for petrol. So we do have that deal with Singapore now, and obviously the government is sensibly using the supply of gas as leverage, because don't forget there's an issue here with gas. The Strait of Hormuz is the basic problem in the Middle East. As long as it's shut, despite what Donald Trump says every second day, where he gets a case of the nerves and backs down, does a taco, so to speak, and the oil price comes down and shares go up. Unless we can start getting more oil through the Strait of Hormuz, then that problem will continue. And of course, it's about 20% of global oil and about 20% of global gas supplies flow through that narrow strait between Iran and the United Arab Emirates. So that's the basic problem here. So what's happening is that most of that, the oil that they have in the refineries in Asia, come from the Middle East. Then if they're not getting enough, they then can't send send it to countries that use their refined fuel, and that includes Australia. I guess we do have that bargaining power, as I referred to there. There's also not as much gas around, and we can continue providing gas to these countries and use that as leverage to some degree, which I guess is what the government's trying to do here, and hopefully that's successful. But there's still going to be a problem as time goes by. Whatever you do, those countries still won't have enough because they don't get their own oil out of the ground. I think Malaysia gets a bit and Indonesia gets a bit, but beyond that, it's not much. So there's still an issue longer term here. I would feel a lot more comfortable if we had that 90 days.
Yeah.
As I think we all would. I would also feel a lot more comfortable if the government was encouraging more people to sort of work at home where possible and do those sorts of things just to start cutting back. I think maybe people are starting to do that because when you're paying, what is it this morning, we're averaging $2.44 according to Motor Mouth this morning. For yesterday, $2.44. I did see prices higher than that. It's funny, the suburb where I live is always top dollar, $2.17 or something ridiculous. Unless yesterday when I saw it, they'd gone up to $2.47. Which was one of the most moderate increases, whereas you go down the road a bit where the discounters are, they're the ones who've come up dramatically because they're having a lot more uncertainty if you're a discounter. But it is a real problem for the Aussie economy. And you've got two issues here. You've got the price.
Yeah.
You know, the average price in February was about $1.69 a litre, give or take a bit. And I know I filled up at various points in time through that period around $1.50, some even cheaper. But the average for the whole month was about $1.69. You know, we've gone up, 45% to $2.45 thereabouts. That's a massive impost on households. My calculation is that it will add about this is horrendous, $27 a week to the weekly fuel bill for a typical house with a petrol car or two petrol cars. So they're just taking an average there, which is about $114 a month. You know, it's for most, it's going to be worse than a mortgage rate increase unless you've got a relatively new mortgage. So that's going to cause pain. But the real issue would come if we literally start to run low on fuel. And that affects transport, obviously. It affects just going to the shops, all those sorts of things, and that could cause problems for the economy. I don't think it's quite the same level as the pandemic, but it could have the same effect in terms of chilling the economy, less people out and about, more people having to stay at home, that sort of stuff. I think the key here is to make sure that we're keeping fuel for our farmers, keeping fuel for our transport operators so they can still get goods and services around the economy, and making sure that part of the economy operates. But if you can work at home, as obviously you and I are doing today, and you are, I guess, most days because that's where you do your business from, that's what we should do.
Yeah. So do the petrol companies have the right to increase the price of fuel per litre to the extent they have if they have in fact bought that fuel at the old price? Has the price of this new inflated fuel, is it costing the petrol stations more to get it?
Well, that's the big...
Or have they inflated the price purely because people are panicking? They think we're going to run out, so there's a higher demand.
Well, that's the big debate and a bit hard to get a handle on. Yeah, we've gone from, say, call it $1.70 to nearly $2.50, so that's pushing 80 cents a litre. My calculation is the rise in the oil price on its own, and given where the Aussie dollar is, you could maybe add 30 cents a litre, so there's 50 cents excess in there, maybe. But that's why there's all this talk about the petrol companies ripping us off, all that sort of stuff. The complication is that a lot of refined fuel comes out of the Middle East as well, and the spread between the underlying crude and the refined product has gone up everywhere. So we pay that spread, and there's been a big increase there. I think in some cases, the case of diesel, it's almost more than doubled. Just the spread that the refineries, of course, in Asia and elsewhere are charging. And there is that aspect, I guess, that, if suddenly there's massive demand, and it looks like there is massive demand. I read that 105 petrol stations in New South Wales were out of fuel, had to close, similar numbers in Victoria and elsewhere. So that is part of it as well. They're saying, well, I've got hardly any fuel left. I'm going to have to put the price up to try and in some way ration it without any other means of rationing. You could call that profiteering. But then you could also argue that's the way the free market works, and some might say, well, there's nothing illegal in doing that. It's a bit like if demand for whatever job you do, demand for workers in the media goes up for whatever reason, and suddenly people come along and say, well, I've got a job offer there at the Australian. I currently work at the Herald. Unless you pay me 20% more, I'm going to be off.
Can I just say this? I hear there's a couple of jobs going at Kiss FM in Sydney. If you'd like
Maybe
to,
we should apply.
well, you're very good with money. I'll let you be my manager, and I promise them I'll do it less than $10 million or $200 million over 10 years. I'm available. Hey, listen, Shane, the country stops if the trucks stop, and trucks run on diesel. Should the trucking industry be given some sort of a rebate, some sort of relief on the petrol? And should we all be paying less fuel excise? Morrison did it during COVID. 51 cents to the dollar is fuel excise. Do you think is it bad economics or good economics if the government says let's give the folks some relief, let's give them some relief on fuel excise, and let's give something back for diesel for truckies and tradies and all those essential services that need diesel?
Well, I know there is some logic to that, and Morrison did that. The fuel excise is currently 51.6 cents a litre. Back in 2022, Morrison halved it. Back then it was 44 cents a litre. It goes up with inflation. So back then it was 44 cents. He cut it to 22 cents. I guess the difference then was that he had an election in 2 months. That was March 22. The election was in May. This time around, the government doesn't face an election for another couple of years, so I don't think they're going to do anything. That said, they will be getting more revenue in because of gas. Downside is we're a net oil importer, but we are a net energy exporter, and we will benefit from higher gas prices. Gas prices have actually gone up more than oil prices. I think they've almost doubled. We're looking at the European gas prices, so they will get some extra revenue there. Maybe there's I wouldn't advocate cutting the fuel excise because you got this problem that when you end it, the price just goes back up again. A real issue, a better approach might be to consider expanded tax cuts to help people out in some ways, or
raise the GST, perhaps. But we pay GST on fuel as well.
Well, we do. That's another option. But if you cut it on fuel, then it sort of complicates the GST because it's meant to be 10% on most things. You put a different rate on GST.
Not on essentials. Now, food is essential, and women's sanitary products are essential. So why shouldn't fuel be an essential product and be exempt from the GST?
Well, maybe, but that's going to result in you got this problem. If you do that, then down the track, you're probably going to have to restore it again. So there is an issue there. I would think that a better way to consider this is if you're going to do anything, provide relief, you're probably looking at income tax cuts, maybe a low and middle income tax offset. So if you're a low and middle income earner, you get some tax break when you fill in your tax return, or small business because most truckies are small businesses, maybe a temporarily lower corporate tax rate to give them some relief. But I'm a little bit reluctant to intervene and give people more rebates like we did with energy, because then you're interfering in the price mechanism. What we're trying to do here is get people to use less to some degree. And if you don't allow the prices to flow through, then people won't lose less. But I am concerned that for truckies, that is a real issue because they need to get that fuel to move it around. I guess they will have to put up their prices. I've already seen my local hardware sent me an email saying that they're putting their delivery rates up by 25%.
Yeah, their costs have gone up.
So we end up paying for it, but the way around that could be broader tax cuts than the ones the government's currently talking of.
So how is it that businesses, anyone that uses fuel or diesel, are going to have to put their prices up because their costs of running that business have now gone up? How is it that beef is so cheap? Why is there suddenly some sort of there's a huge beef excess in Australia? They reckon because of the floods and the cyclone, beef were transferred closer to the New South Wales-Queensland border, and somehow there's a glut of beef. And beef is now cheaper than it's been in years. Work that out.
Yeah, I can never work that out. I mean, sometimes I've gone into my local supermarket and it seems to be through the paying $50 for something, and then a little while later, a year later, it's down to 18 or something. And I think, what's happening here? Well, obviously that does have an effect. When there's these weather phenomenon, then they can cause a situation where suddenly the supply of beef surges, and that pushes the price back down. So
if there's a glut of something, the price will come down to meet demand. And it's like our housing crisis, isn't it? We don't have enough houses. We have too many people wanting houses, and so the price has gone up on houses. If you put more stock on the market, the price will come down because demand will drop off. Just let me point something else out to you. And I'm sure you've already thought about this because you're a genius. But I was talking...
about that.
Compared to me, you are. Well, that's not a rap, is it? But I was talking, and we talk regularly now, to Jonathan Kersley, who is Sky News' Washington bureau chief. And we were talking about the sudden explosion of fuel theft. We've had farmers reporting that diesel is being stolen from their tanks. Literally, one farmer had a drill hole through his fuel tank in his tractor. But we're having fuel theft explode here in Australia. In last week, I don't know what the latest figure is today, but it had gone up 77% in South Australia. People going into servos, filling up and driving off.
Yeah.
And Jonathan Kersley was saying most servos now in America, you pull up at the Bowser, you take the hose off, put it in your car, and it won't turn on until you pre-program the keypad. So you put in $50. Then you have to tap it with your credit card before the fuel turns on. And he said, I reckon that a lot of Australian servos, to avoid this theft, will resort to that, where you pay at the Bowser and you've got to tap your credit card before any fuel gets into your motor vehicle. Now, bypass of that, it may stop theft, but those little service stations, which are really franchises, they survive off selling newspapers, flowers on Mother's Day, pies, chocolates, coffees, milk, bread, and inflated prices. That's where their markup is. It's not in the fuel. So if people don't physically walk into those servos and buy those last-minute items, they're going to suffer.
They will. That's why Australian servos don't want to do that. Apparently in America, I remember 30 years ago being there, and I had a rental car and, you're meant to fill your rental car up before you go to the airport. Yes. But if you're not familiar with the car, you don't know how much fuel you need to put in it. Yeah. So it's really hard to judge. And then you come up with this Bowser, which has that. You got to put the money in, and then I go and say, is there something wrong with this stupid thing? It wants me to prepay. And sure enough, you got to prepay, but then you can overestimate or underestimate, end up paying them more than you need or paying them less. And then
you might type in $50, tap your credit card, pay, but your car only needed 40.
Yeah, what do you do then? I mean, it's complicated, but
I know.
So, that system is a bit of a messy one. Some servos in Australia did introduce that. You might see it over the years, but it's never been popular with Australians because of that reason, and it's never been popular with the servos for the reason you mentioned, that a lot of the revenue they get actually comes from the shop. So I suspect that it probably won't happen. I suspect that in time, just like happened in the 70s, a lot of things changed in the 70s with those surges in fuel prices that occurred back then. We had a fourfold rise in oil prices in 1973. We had a threefold rise in oil prices in 1979. GM or Holden, shrunk the size. The Kingswood, you remember the Kingswood?
Yeah, I remember the Kingswood. Not the Kingswood.
Not the Kingswood.
I've just missed the Sheen the Venetians.
Yeah, geez, not the Kingswood. I've just been polishing the battery or whatever.
No, but anyway, the tow bar. I've just polished the tow bar.
Yeah,
I've just. You're not taking the Kingswood. I've just put a new tennis ball on the tow bar.
Anyway, that was a great show. But, the size of the original Commodore was much smaller than the original Kingswood that it replaced. And the reason was that Holden sort of figured that we're now going to want to have smaller cars. Now, Ford figured, well, that probably won't happen. We did want smaller cars for a little while there. Then, of course, we forgot about it as we went into the 80s and the oil price came back down again. And so I suspect that something similar will happen this time around. Yes, there'll be changes on the back of this. Fuel theft is a problem. Some people will be motivated to go out there and buy EVs, which, a lot of people, I reckon, would be looking sensibly at present. But by the same token, over time, fuel prices will come back down again, and these sort of issues will sort of fade a little bit. Might take a couple of years, as it did after 1979, but eventually things will go back to normal, and then we won't need those Bowsers with those sorts of things on them.
Yeah, it was just an observation. You just mentioned EVs. Now, as you know, Victoria has implemented a road user charge for electric and plug-in hybrid vehicles. It later failed in a court challenge, and it led to millions of dollars in refunds. But there's talk today, at the recording of today's podcast, that there is talk of getting a national cabinet together, because you need all the states and territories to agree. But should EVs be charged a road user charge because they're not paying the fuel excise?
Well, they should. Yeah, I'm paying 51.6 cents a litre, which goes to upgrade of roads and so on, whereas if you've got an EV, you're getting away scot-free, but you're still driving down the road. You're still using the road. So, yes, you should be. And the logical way of doing it is the one they're talking about, where at the end of each year or whatever, you take a photo of your odometer, work out the difference in kilometres, and you got to send that in, and then you're charged a fee on that. So there is a way you can do it, and I think ultimately we're going to have to do that. I mean, if EVs were just 1% or something of the market out there, maybe you don't worry as much. But now that it's pushing up to 10, it's going to push up to 20 over the next few years. It makes sense to do that. Otherwise, they're getting away scot-free compared to everybody else.
One more thing, and this is back to cost of living, and this is incredibly sad, but businesses here in Australia are under so much pressure. Probably not seen since the dark days of COVID. And where I used to work at World Square in the centre of Sydney, you remember I used to work there at Triple M.
I do. You got locked out one day.
That's right. I forgot to take my pass. Jesus, were you ever
locked out of your own office?
God, you've got a memory like an elephant. It's correct. But when COVID hit, and to this day, there are so many small retailers, and most of them food outlets, restaurants, have all got for lease signs up now. In George Street, the main drag, which is incredibly sad, cost of living. Almost 700 businesses, folks, have collapsed because of this perfect storm, cost of living, the Iran war, interest rates. New Australian Securities and Investments Commission data shows 689 businesses in New South Wales alone have entered liquidation between the 5th of January this year and March the 1st. And economists and industry leaders are warning more small businesses are on the brink of collapse. You've got Australia's biggest businesses, including Uber, Virgin, Qantas, Coles, Woolworths. They've already begun increasing or foreshadowed significant adjustments to their charges because they're responding to the spiralling fuel costs and the knock-on supply chain effects. Small Business Association of Australia is saying, well, now the government has got to help these businesses and re-implement COVID-type conditions. Number one, should the government, for these struggling businesses, reintroduce JobKeeper? Should the government ration petrol? Should the government be saying to people, if you don't need to go into the office, you must work from home? I remember during COVID, and I've kept it, and I've mentioned this before, but I had a little slip of paper that was issued to me because broadcasting was considered an essential service. And I needed a piece of paper because my registration was tied to the Northern Beaches and it was out of my zone. And I had to drive into the city. And in case a police officer pulled me up, checking my rego to see where my car was registered, I had to show them. It's like Nazi Germany, how you had to show your papers before you cross borders. And I got this little piece of paper to say I was allowed to travel outside of my postcode because I was an essential service in broadcasting. Does the government need to re-implement these drastic measures to try and save small businesses? Let's start with JobKeeper.
Look, I think it's too early to consider JobKeeper. It could be an option depending on how bad this thing gets. At this stage, I think it's too early to do that. That was a major program. It worked wonders, but it also cost the budget a massive amount of money, and lots of companies made a lot of money out of it and never refunded it. I think it's way too early to think about that, and it has to be, if it is going to be done, it has to be a lot more targeted than it was back then. I also think there's a huge problem for the budget here because, the budget was never really brought back under control. I mean, the government would say it has been. We had a couple of years of surpluses there because of windfall gains in government revenue. But I think the level of debt, we're still talking about $1 trillion worth of debt. That's still a big issue out there. So we don't have the same degree of flexibility as we had pre-COVID, let alone pre-GFC, because we've been running much higher budget deficits for many, many years, and that's projected to continue anyway. So I think it's a bit too early to consider that. Something like tax cuts should be considered for businesses, more inducements to invest, all those sorts of things. But I think it's just a little bit too early to consider JobKeeper. We're not quite that bad just yet. But I do think, yes, businesses should be encouraged to make it easier for their staff to work at home. People should be encouraged to work at home. Consider using E10 if you can, because the sugar there comes from Australia that goes into it. I know it's not so good for your engine.
My car. No way in the world.
I know, but you can probably get away with it.
I'll pay. Hey, listen, I'm happy to, not happy. For example, we've got to go to Kangaroo Valley soon for a business meeting and some recording. And I'm going to take my car. Now, it's going to cost a fair bit in fuel, and it's a business trip. Okay, so I have to pay the extra in fuel to V8, as you know, so long as I've got it available. I don't want to be stuck in Kangaroo Valley and no petrol station to be open.
Well,
can I just get back to JobKeeper? I'm glad it was there. My daughter flies and back then flew with Qantas, and everything was grounded. So it kept her going, and I'm seriously appreciative of it. But
it's a fantastic program. There's no doubt about that.
Okay, but Qantas did okay. You talked about people doing well on JobKeeper. Harvey Norman repaid about $22 million that it got in JobKeeper payments, but only after protest. Now, I remember talking about this. Harvey Norman received about $22 million in JobKeeper wage subsidies during the pandemic, but at the same time, they posted record profits.
Yeah, that was the problem.
They posted a 75% profit increase after tax, and they got $22 million. And Jerry Harvey wasn't going to repay the $22 million. Eventually, he did. Now, I remember saying on the air, hey, listen, Jerry, I'm not your policy advisor, and I'll give you this advice for free. Should have repaid it immediately. And said, listen, we've done well. Thank you, Australia. Thank you to the government. Here's $22 million back. And he did it too late. Had he done it straight away, people would have said, good old Jerry Harvey, what a good bloke. You know what? Next time I've got some cash, I'm going to buy my next lounge or my next TV from Jerry Harvey because he did the right thing. He did it under sufferance and did it too late. It was terrible PR.
Yeah. I mean, it was a brilliant program. It preserved a lot of jobs and kept the relationship between workers and their boss, like your example there with Qantas. But by the same token, the pandemic had these, I guess, unforeseen impacts. You know, people were then at home and then they couldn't go to the shops, but they actually spent a lot of money on goods. So certain companies actually did pretty well through COVID, but they still got JobKeeper, in which case they should have given it back. So any program this time around would have to be better designed than that one was and more targeted. I think there were situations where some people, because it was a flat amount, actually ended up getting paid more than they were pre-COVID in their same job. So there were issues with it, but it did help the economy and protect the economy and helped it bounce back a lot quicker. But I think at this stage it's still too early. There's always this chance that we wake up tomorrow morning. I know we woke up this morning with a bit of good news, but it happens every second day with Donald Trump. But one of these days, maybe there will be really good news and there'll be some end to the blockage of the Strait of Hormuz. The oil will start to come through and then prices will start to come back down. That could always happen before things get too bad, in which case that's why I think it's a little bit too early now to be sort of thinking about JobKeeper. But government should be rightly thinking about these sorts of programs in the eventuality that maybe it continues.
You know, the government's very good at making these decisions very, very quickly. I guess that's why we pay them and elect them.
That's right. That's their job.
But, I mean, you look at a good idea like the NDIS and you look at the reported $6 billion a year that has been misused and rorted through the NDIS, you know, really.
Well, that's the sad thing about whenever you set up a government program, particularly a welfare program, a whole industry grows around it. And that's where the rorts come from. And they're a lot harder to control, I think. You know, if it's a private businesses running the program, they're a lot more focused on keeping the cost down, but government often isn't, at least initially. Yeah, sure. Then they work out there's a problem, which is what I think they're doing now. And, you know, you've now got a situation where I think it's costing or close to costing as much as Medicare does in the budget. And if you're looking at why government spending has exploded in Australia compared to where it was pre-COVID, NDIS is a big part of that. I'm not saying that it's not a worthy program. It is a great program helping people who really need it, but there's a lot of wastage in there, and that's taking money away from the private sector. And if you want to know, well, how come inflationary problems have been higher in Australia than perhaps they should be, that's part of it. Because it means less money, less resources left over for the private sector.
Last question. Should the Reserve Bank, or did the Reserve Bank do the right thing by putting interest rates up when they look at monthly figures? Should they have waited till June to the quarterly?
Look, I think they should have waited, but what I think they should do is perhaps different to what I think they will do. I actually thought they would raise rates last week because I knew the way they think about things, which is inflation's already high. We're now going to have another addition to inflation. People will lose faith in our ability to keep the inflation rate back down. So I sort of anticipated they would hike, but I reckon if I was on the Reserve Bank board, I probably would have been one of those 4 board members who voted to hold. It was a close vote. 5 in favour of a hike, 4 in favour of a hold. I probably would have been one of those saying, let's wait till May because then we can get a better handle on how the economy is being impacted. Yes, it pushes prices up. We see that every day with the petrol price, but it's also going to be a drag on things because, as you were saying there, if lots of people are forced to stay at home, then lots of businesses are going to be in trouble. And those ones in the city and so on, we already see those lease signs. Therefore, and there's also this chance that by the time we get to May, fingers crossed, touch wood, hopefully the war may be resolving itself. So that said, I can understand where they're coming from, and it's not just them under pressure now. Money market, this financial market expectations for virtually all central banks around the world have now moved to factoring in hikes this year. And I guess there's also those memories of the 70s where inflation got out of control, not helped by the surge in oil prices. So it's not just the RBA, but I think they could have waited a little bit longer, as other central banks did last week. We had 8 central banks meeting last week. One of them hiked, that was us. The other 7 left rates on hold. So I think they could have just waited a little bit longer.
Shane Oliver, Chief Economist with AMP, thank you so much for your time and explaining all of that. We'll have more to talk about, I'm sure, next week. We'll get you back on and we'll see what develops because these things are changing every day, every minute.
They certainly are, Luke, but next week I'm going to be away on holidays. So
I'll talk to you the week after.
I can't be here next week.
I'll talk to you the week
after.
All right.
Later the week after. Yeah, later the week after.
Before you go, I've got to share something with you. I saw a clip on YouTube the other day, and it was Elon Musk delivering an economist joke. Now,
there's lots of them.
Well, I'm going to tell you, he said it's the funniest economist joke he's ever heard, and I don't know if it is, but I'm going to run it past you, and I want you to rate it out of 10. If I get a genuine laugh out of you, I'll give it a 6. Okay, this is exactly what he said. 2 economists are walking through the woods. Now, obviously, it's American. Otherwise, we would have said the bush. 2 economists are walking through the woods, and they come across a big pile of bear shit. And one economist says to the other, I'll give you $100 if you eat that pile of shit. And the economist says, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And eats the shit, gets $100. Well, they keep walking a little bit further on. There's another pile of shit. So the other one says, well, I'll give you $100 now if you eat that pile of shit. And he goes, yeah, all right. Eats the pile of shit, gives him $100. They started walking, and one of them said to the other, you know what? We just started where we came from, and we've both eaten a lot of shit. The second economist said, yeah, but we've just put $200 back into the economy, haven't we?
Yeah, that is a good joke. It's not original.
Is it a good joke or not?
It is a good joke. It's a good send-up of economists. It's not quite correct because if I just give money to you and you give it back to me, it probably wouldn't count.
Yeah, that's what he says. Anyway. We're back where we started from. He said, we're both eating shit. We're both back where we started from. He said, yeah, but we've just put $200 back.
Yeah, I know. It's a clever joke, but he's taken it from somewhere.
Are you trying to tell me that Elon Musk doesn't have an original thought?
Well, I'm sure he does occasionally, but you never know. He's got so many people working for him. Maybe they're the ones having the original thoughts. You never know. He must have some brilliance there because he started so many things off, starting with PayPal, I think it was, and then making electric vehicles work.
Getting into bed with Donald Trump, we knew that was going to end in tears.
That wasn't such a good idea.
I said to you on air, I'll give it 6 months. I think it lasted 4. I got one more for you. It's not an economist joke, and Kelsey might choose not to put this in the podcast, but I've got to tell you because I thought it was quite good. How many Freudians does it take to change a light bulb?
Oh, this is an economist joke.
It's not. How many Freudians does it take to change a light bulb?
That's a good question. It got something to do with what happened when you were a child, wasn't it? I don't know the answer to that one. I know the answer to the economist one.
It takes 2. One to change the light bulb and the other one to hold his cock. Ladder!
Seriously.
Stephen Fry. That's a Stephen Fry joke.
Stephen Fry joke, yeah. As the economist would say that, if the lights go out, how many economists does it take to change the light bulbs? None. If there's a problem, free market forces will correct the lighting disequilibrium.
Shane
so
Oliver,
you don't need to do anything. The free market will fix it for you.
Shane, we've gone past. We've peaked, okay?
I think we've peaked and no one will get that one.
We've peaked, and Kelsey may well just choose to leave all of this rubbish out. It's up to her. She's the boss. Hey, Shane Oliver, enjoy your week off next week, and thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Luke. Take care.
Chief Economist with AMP, Shane Oliver.
But you let him stick around through
Well, there wouldn't be many people listening to today's podcast without knowing the name Gerard Robert Baden Clay. And the story behind it is tragic and yet incredibly intriguing. Gerard Baden Clay's defence people are hoping to get him out of jail early next year. Now, there's a fair bit to this story, and I have been lucky enough to be able to talk to the retired now Senior Detective Mark Ainsworth, who put Gerard, with his team, put Gerard Baden Clay behind bars. And it's time to revisit this because there have been some interesting developments along the way. Retired Detective Mark Ainsworth, welcome to the Bonafide podcast. You're relaxing at the moment. Is life treating you well? You're looking well.
It's very good, thanks, Luke. It's big change since I retired, so it's very, very good.
Take us back to 2012 and Gerard Robert Baden Clay. But I want to hear it from the bloke who was in charge of the investigation. Gerard Baden Clay rang the police to say that his wife was missing and there was a search, but even the circumstances surrounding that search were quite bizarre. And I remember you telling me that it was pretty soon after that phone call and police arriving at his house that they noticed suspicious behaviour and circumstances. So, Mark Ainsworth, if you can, in your words, take us through this from the moment he made that 000 call.
No worries, Luke. Well, he made the 000 call to report his wife missing, and that's been played a lot in public record. Sounding distressed that his wife had gone for a usual walk and hadn't come home, and is concerned about her.
My wife isn't home. I don't know where she is.
Okay. When did you last see her, sir?
Last night when we went to bed, when I went to bed, and I got up this morning and she wasn't there, and that's not unusual. She often goes for a walk in the morning.
Yep.
I've texted her and called her a number of times. I think she has her phone with her.
Yep. What time does she normally get back when she goes for a walk?
This morning she was planning to, she has a seminar in the city, so she was planning to leave by, around 7. And,
okay.
She's not back home yet.
Okay, all right. And what's your wife?
I'm now driving the streets.
The uniformed police from Indooroopilly went to his house at Brookfield, and the uniformed police did an exceptional job from the word go. They spoke to him, but on speaking to him, they saw marks down the side of his face, which they believe were consistent for scratch marks. And he gave various stories which just did not add up to the time to those uniformed police. They called their supervisor there, who again had the same suspicion that things weren't adding up, and alerted the CIB to attend and talk to Mr. Baden Clay. At that time, it was very interesting. Prior to police arriving, he had done checks on the right to silence. He'd spoken to his lawyer and had claimed to police that he'd been out driving around the usual walking route of Allison to see if he could find her, which we now know is totally incorrect and totally false information. Once the CIB became involved, a full-scale missing person investigation commenced. His house was locked up as a crime scene, and we held that for 5 days to allow our forensic police to do a thorough investigation of the house, looking for any evidence. And that was pretty critical to the investigation. They had a clean crime scene that they could work from, and also part of that crime scene was 3 vehicles, one being his father's vehicle, who was at the house when police arrived, and the second one was his white Prado, and the third one was a brand new Captiva, Holder Captiva, which he told police was his wife's vehicle.
Let's get back to the scratch marks. The police were pretty quick on this. They saw a fairly obvious scratch mark, and he said it was from shaving. Now, you had an expert, and it's quite amazing, this expert that you found who had recently studied scratch marks and shaving marks, and they were not consistent. The scratch marks were not consistent with shaving accident.
That's correct. And look, even during the search of his house, police looked for razor blades. They looked for stains, for the men listening to this out there, the first thing you do is you try and stop the bleeding. There's no tissues in the rubbish bin. There's no signs of any blood. And it was pretty obvious that they were scratch marks. They weren't shaving cuts. What Gerard did the day after, the 20th of April, he attended a local doctor at Kenmore, a female doctor, who studied some shaving biopsies during her studies as a medical professional, and she was able to quickly identify that they were not shaving cuts. They were, in fact, what she believed to be scratch marks. The other interesting part about that, I think Jared became infatuated with this doctor as well and gave her his business card. Said, if you feel like catching up for coffee, give me a ring. This is within 24 hours of killing his wife.
But there's also the botany, the shrubbery, the leaves that were found on Alison's body. And you found an expert there that said, no, that particular plant does not grow where her body was found. And you found those plants at the family home. There's also the fact that he wanted to check up pretty quickly on her life insurance, rang lawyers before he spoke to the police. It's quite incredible. But just to go back even further, if we could, Mark, Jared Baden-Clay, his real estate business was struggling. And yet he was a very proud man, was well embedded in the local society, was connected to politicians and councillors and mayors and would have seen himself as a pillar of the community. But his real estate business was going to shit. And he was also having an affair. Take us through all of that.
That's correct. He had the real estate business, which he had for a number of years. His property was a rental property, which he'd lived in for 14 years. He knew that area around Brookfield, all that catchment around that area. As a real estate agent, he would have known like the back of his hand. Mm-hmm. His business, as you said, was struggling to the point that he borrowed money from friends. I think it was in the vicinity of about $360,000, which he could not afford to pay back at any stage. He had placed himself on the Kenmore business community, being seen in the community as promoting himself as a successful real estate person and putting himself in positions, as you described, in the community so he could expose himself to the community group.
He also went to town, his family, the Baden-Clay surname associated with the Boy Scouts.
That's correct. Yeah, that was a big name that he used. He just used that name and talked about the fame of his great grandfather. In relation to the scouting movement. So he was the sort of person that I just describe him as a complete false pretender. You wouldn't believe anything he told you whatsoever. He was all about Jared. He had a young family at home, 3 young girls. He had
beautiful girls,
fantastic girls, and without meeting Alison, everything we've seen and learn about her, a fantastic lady, a great wife, a great mum. But he was living this life away from the home, as you mentioned, girlfriends on the side. He'd had a long-term affair with one particular female that we spoke to a number of times during this investigation. Everything he said was just, you had to check out. You mentioned there about the botanical expert we found. One story, apart from the scratches in the face, he had scratch marks around the neck and all that, which he claimed was caused by a caterpillar.
A caterpillar, yes.
The killer caterpillar. Every story he put forward, we were managed to, through investigations and using experts from different fields, to negate anything he said. We had a expert there that on caterpillars that went to the park where he said the caterpillar got him. He claimed that he was watching one of his girls or the girls running across country, identified the park where this was. So we had our botanist, Dr. Gordon Guymer, and the caterpillar expert attend that park and identified that the caterpillars didn't fall from trees and weren't killer caterpillars that would cause scratches of such a nature. Gordon Guymer was critical to this case, the botanist. You mentioned there that there was foliage found in Alison's hair, which were removed, and Gordon managed to analyse all those different bits of foliage. The other good part about having Gordon Guymer was he knew that area like the back of his hand. He was a local in that area. And interestingly, every piece of foliage that was found in Alison's hair was also found at the house. Some of that foliage, or all of that foliage, was not found where we located Alison's body some time later.
Did Alison know of the affairs? She did, didn't she?
She did. She became aware of one, and they went to marriage counselling where, they were sat down. She kept a diary, which was evidence in the court. Supposed to have conversations every night about their marriage and saving their marriage. She became aware of the name of the woman that he was having an affair with. It was a lady by the name McHugh, attending a real estate conference the day of the 20th of April, which that McHugh was attending. So she was well and truly aware of the affair, but tried her hardest to get the marriage back on track for the sake of herself, her kids, and to bring the family unit back together, which never, ever happened.
This woman, McHugh, worked with him. was aware that he was married. Was Gerard Baden Clay saying to this woman, I'm going to leave Alison, I'm going to live with you now, you're the one I love? Was she being led along?
Look, I think so. He made that mention to her a number of occasions, saying that he was going to be with her by the start of July, the start of the new financial year, which we found very interesting. He mentioned that a number of times, and even during this investigation, we obviously had some investigative strategies in place and saw that Gerard had met up with McHugh and
this is Tony McHugh. Yeah. And he had been with her. That relationship went over 3 years. Is that correct?
That's correct. It was a long-term relationship.
Yeah.
As well as that, there was other relationships, very short-term ones at real estate conferences and other events that he went to.
So the staff at that real estate agency, they would have all known?
I would assume they would have known, Luke. Yeah, I think it's one of those things that you're hard to miss, and that sort of would have been front of mind, I think, for them.
So she is an innocent party to all of this?
She was, but during the investigation, the investigators interviewed her a number of times, and it wasn't until one of the final interviews that she was more forthcoming with more accurate information as to what occurred.
And what did she say?
Well, we located covert laptop communications between Gerard and herself, a covert communication channel they were using, which no one knew about. There's a lot of conversations we picked up there. She confirmed to the investigating police that Gerard had told her on a number of occasions that he was going to leave Alison and they'd be together. And I think she'd planned her life. She'd left her husband and family, and I think she'd planned her life around getting together with Gerard, listening to what he had to tell her.
But she would have had no idea that he was going to kill Alison.
No, not at all. We don't believe that whatsoever, no.
No, but she was fully aware that he was married. How much money did he owe? Over $300-something thousand. How did he afford a defence, and how is he affording this appeal?
It's very interesting. The community in the Brookfield, Kenmore area, particularly Brookfield, was very divided. I can recall we had a forward command post at Brookfield Showgrounds, which ran for 11 days until we found Alison. The community there, we had people there that were genuinely concerned and wanting to find Alison. We had Alison's family there day in, day out for the whole duration of the search. But there were other people there who were aligned to Gerard that were hanging around there trying to find out what information was police were coming up and what was going on. The community had a funding page which went towards Gerard to help him pay for legal fees and expenses that he was incurring. So we knew that Gerard had no money to his name whatsoever. Once you said he made inquiries about the life insurance, we knew the debt that he had, the $360,000 that he owned, that he didn't own anything, that his business was going down the gurgler. So we knew that he had no way to facilitate paying for his legal team. Exactly where all the money came from to pay for his legal team, I have no idea, but I am fully aware that there were members of the community contributing towards some funding for him.
If we can jump back in now to your investigation.
Yes, yep. That's okay. No, I can hear you very clearly, Luke. Yep.
And his staff, I mean, what sort of stories was he telling his staff? And if he'd been in that area for so long, didn't people think it was a bit strange that a real estate agent didn't own his own house?
Well, I'm not sure how public that was, but that was one thing I thought was very strange. Real estate agents dealing in an area know the ins and outs of all that area, know a good place to invest or good properties along those lines, and not really sure of the reason why they never actually purchased that place. Brookfield's a great little area.
So who did he borrow all the money off?
There was 3 friends that he borrowed money off, ranging from $90,000 off one up to higher amounts. So they were friends that were aware of his real estate business that had known Gerard for some time. And, of course, none of that money would have been reimbursed to those people.
So those people are out of pocket as well. And I want to get on to the 3 daughters and how they're going. We'll do that in just a minute, but I just want to continue with your investigation. You're a very astute bloke and you were surrounded by very good police and detectives. And you were also, your superior at the time had complete faith in you and said, I don't want you to be bogged down with red tape and bureaucracy. Do your thing. Is that correct?
That's correct. We're very, very fortunate. I reported directly to the Assistant Commissioner for the Metro North area, who was Brett Pointing at the time. And I'd known Brett for years. We'd been through the academy together as cadets as soon as we got out of school. And I played cricket with Brett, and we were good mates. And as you said, Brett, he was very, very keen, like everyone was, to get some resolution for this matter. He came out a number of times to the Brookfield Showgrounds, and anything I went to put to Brett about what we'd like to do was 500% support all the way through it. And, you know, they weren't silly little things. It was like the engagement of a hydrologist, which cost a lot of money, which we used for water flows where Alison's body was found, sending people over with samples from the autopsy to Perth to talk to professors there. And the support we got from him was second to none. And Brett now is the acting commissioner in Queensland Police, and I think they've done a great job putting him in there.
So back to the investigation. So you've got the caterpillar bites, which weren't from a caterpillar. You've got the leaves or the botanical matter in Alison's hair that didn't come from where he had dumped her body. I'm sorry to sound, unceremonious here, but that's what he did. The scratch on his face, which from an expert said that was definitely not from a razor blade. But then tell us about him calling his legal representatives and the inquiry into the life insurance.
Yeah, well, it's for a man that made out to be quite distressed when he rang AAA to report his wife missing initially, engaging a lawyer at an early stage. If you put yourself in a situation, if your wife's gone missing on a walk, as he described to police initially, the last person you'd be ringing is a lawyer. Why would you be ringing a lawyer? You'd be ringing all the friends. You'd be getting everyone out looking for her. So that again raised alarm bells. And of course, he elected his right to silence on the advice of the lawyer. He was asked, through the lawyer, if him and Alison had an argument and something occurred and he'd killed her and gone out of control, now the time was to tell us. He never cooperated one bit with that at the time, never cooperated right up to the Supreme Court trial when that was offered to him as a manslaughter by the prosecutor DPP, a manslaughter charge rather than murder. He just maintained his innocence throughout and failed to cooperate throughout the whole thing from word go to the Supreme Court trial.
So how soon after ringing 000 did he ring a lawyer?
The lawyer, I think, was contacted immediately after.
Wow.
I think once realised that police were going to be attending his house, and then the lawyer was from the Gold Coast, so it actually came up to Brisbane after receiving the call.
And the life insurance?
Life insurance, there was inquiries made by him on Alison's life insurance. I'm not sure of the exact date now, but it was well and truly before we found Alison, and I believe it was leading up to before Alison's murder that he'd made a contact with the life insurance to find out what the policy was worth. So again, circumstantial. The case was largely circumstantial. We had no admissions at all, no cooperation from him whatsoever. But the pieces of circumstantial evidence, all putting it together, in our view, was enough to charge him. And as it turned out, the right call was made after he was convicted.
So your red flags were up immediately, straight away from the scratch mark.
That's correct. The great work from the uniformed police, they saw it. The initial investigators went there. So initially, the red flags have been raised, as you said, to get a crime scene warrant to lock down his house for a period of 5 days. We had the police forward command post at Brookfield with an inspector running the search and controlling the search. We had at the same time the major incident room set up at Indooroopilly CIB where the detectives were doing the investigation work. So from basically day one, looking at his appearance with a scratch mark on his face and what he was telling police just didn't add up.
And he's still saying he's innocent?
To my knowledge, he's never made any admission. I think he wouldn't admit to breathing if he didn't have to. But he's made no admission whatsoever in relation to anything about Alison's murder. And it's interesting up here, Luke, we'll probably get to it later. You mentioned at the start here about his parole application. In Queensland in 2017, legislation was passed about no parole. This case, we did have a body, and we found Alison after 11 days. And you can imagine the trauma of Alison's family and friends, what they went through sitting at Brookfield day in, day out, waiting for news of Alison had been found. Had he cooperated from day one and told us where he'd dumped Alison's body, that would have saved a hell of a lot of trauma for people in the community and, more importantly, the family of Alison. He elected not to. He didn't want to. And that was just another part of his arrogance, that he was better than everyone else. But, he stuffed up where he dumped Alison's body. It was above the high tide mark. It's just, and hopefully the parole board will consider, even though we've had the body, will consider his lack of cooperation from day one as to where he dumped Alison's body, his lack of remorse for what he has done to Alison, his behaviour throughout the whole investigation, to the point that Justice Byrne summed up when he does apply for parole, that he urged the parole board to be very cautious about anything he said. Other matters, in considering parole, they've got to look at cooperation with the authorities. We had none whatsoever from him, none whatsoever. And, his rehabilitation in the prison system, has he gone through rehabilitation? Has he had psychiatric reports and doing some work with psychiatrists? But also, has he done anything to rehabilitate himself? And these are answers I don't know, because, in prison, obviously. But if you look at the case in a whole, he has not cooperated one iota throughout the whole thing, even sending his sister down to the Brookfield showgrounds, demanding that they get into the house to get Alison's jewellery and property because she didn't trust the police with that. Not once did he come down to Brookfield showgrounds to inquire if anyone had found Alison. He was running around scheming stories, trying to protect his own bum, instead of being a man and upfront about where he had dumped the mother of his 3 children, his wife. Just that the arrogance of the bloke is unbelievable.
Tell me about his behaviour at Alison's funeral.
He arrived at Alison's funeral with the 3 girls. He arrived very late. He sat down there and, once the funeral was concluded and Alison's body had been put in the hearse, he was at the back of the hearse with the 3 girls and, showing signs of distress. He was mingling with people, passing on their condolences to him, and just playing out the grieving widower scenario at that church service.
And I remember at the time you said that you could tell straight away they were crocodile tears.
They were. We had some investigative strategies where a number of the investigators spoke to Jared there and passing on our condolences and sort of telling them not far away from the arrest. I remember personally going up and talking to him, passing on condolences, and he said to me, "I hope you catch this person that's done this." And I said, "Yeah, we're well and truly onto that, Jared, and it'll only be a matter of time." No reaction. Just very cold-hearted, I thought, at the funeral. Not the normal behaviour that you would expect from someone who's lost a partner.
What's happened to Tony McHugh, the lover?
I think at one stage she did move up to the sunny coast to do some work, but I believe now she may be overseas doing some form of teaching. I'm not 100% certain on that, but she's certainly, last I heard, nowhere in the Brisbane area.
And how are the 3 girls going? Who's looking after them? How old are they now?
3 girls have grown up. They are the nicest girls you could ever meet, given the circumstances of what they've been through. They had great family support around them, bringing them up. Alison's parents, Jeff and Priscilla, done a magnificent job with the help of many others in bringing the 3 girls up. The eldest girl, she's 25 now, and the youngest is 18, and all, just the nicest girls you could meet. They're very out there, and that we have a Alison Baden Clay fundraiser every year, a luncheon, and the last few years the girls have got up and spoken about their mum.
Wow.
To me, that is such a brave thing to do.
Isn't
but
it?
they are such mature girls and very, very fortunate to have that family and friend network around them to bring them up. And it's absolutely incredible. Like, a lot of people in these situations unfortunately don't have that sort of support, but the work that the Dickies have done and their friends with these 3 girls is remarkable, and they are the most respectful and well-liked kids you could ever wish for.
It kind of reminds me of the strength of Daniel Morecambe's parents and the Daniel Morecambe Foundation. I don't know how people find that strength. and that courage.
No, it's absolutely amazing. And what Jeff and Priscilla and their other daughter, Vanessa, have done in setting up the foundation. And the foundation is trying to get into early intervention and awareness about domestic violence, particularly in schools, in big companies. They go and they talk to mining companies. They talk to a lot of companies all around Queensland and Australia, spreading that message. And look, this fundraising lunch, the money all goes back to the work that foundation is doing in relation to education. But the numbers of attendees there now has just skyrocketed. And the support that the foundation has from members of the community is second to none.
Are they in touch with their father? Do you have any idea? Do they forgive him? Do they believe him? He's still protesting his innocence, hoping for parole next year because he was given life with non-parole 15 years, and that 15 years is up next year. Do you have any idea of how they feel about all of that?
Look, Luke, I've never spoken to the girls about what happened, what they saw, what they knew. Obviously, during the course of the investigation, our Juvenile Aid Bureau experts spoke to the three girls. I've never had a conversation with them about anything to do with this matter. I try and steer clear away from that and positive conversations. So, unfortunately, I can't answer that. But you've got to have a look. Their life, 15 years without mum, without dad, and the support they've got. They've moved on. They're young adults, young girls moving on with their life. You know, parole, if he gets out and gets parole, and, you know, he's moving back in, whether he moves back into their life, whether they accept him, I can't answer. But you can just imagine the stress and trauma on those three girls trying to weigh up what's going to happen. And not only that, on Alison's parents and close family and friends. So he could be free next year. Do you think that's likely? You're more of an expert than I am. Or is it a lottery? Will the parole board, if that's what is looking into this, will they bring you in and ask you your thoughts? I can't. I'm not sure on that. Like the parole board up here in Queensland, I think like other jurisdictions, are an independent statutory body, and they make their decisions without influence or pressure from any external sources. But their highest priority is community safety, and that's what one of the things they need to consider when looking at a parole application. This one here is interesting. Jared, I think, is a narcissist, and there's been a lot on narcissism in murderers recently in the media. But I think the important thing they need to consider, and again, this is my view only, is the lack of cooperation throughout the investigation. The trauma that he put the family through for 11 days, not even having the balls to stand up and tell us where Alison's body was. No admission to defence whatsoever. His behaviour in prison, is he a model prisoner? How has he behaved in prison? So there's so many things the parole board need to consider. But in saying that too, you'd be well and truly aware of an individual who I think was from the Brookfield area that has started up a petition to keep Jared in. The public interest in that petition up here in Queensland has been immense, and with most people saying no, he should never be released. Some other people are saying he's done his time, he needs to get out and rehabilitate. Then others are saying, well, if he gets out, he won't last long. So there's so much going on, and the parole board have got a critical decision to make, and I'm confident they will make the right decision, but time will tell. It's a fascinating story, and it's tragic, and I just can't believe that this guy is so arrogant. What did you say? He what was something about breathing? What did you say? Oh, he wouldn't admit to breathing. Yeah, he wouldn't admit to breathing. How many times face to face were you with Jared Baden Clay? I had very little to do with him. I spoke to him at the funeral and at the day of his arrest, when he was at the Indooroopilly CIB. My role there was sort of just an overviewing role. And as I said a number of times, I was so fortunate to have a great team around me. So the investigators in these situations, an arrest team is appointed, and they're the ones that mostly have the dealings with the suspect at that time. Well, we'll have to wait and see if Jared Baden Clay walks free next year after 15 years of incarceration. Mark, you've had an amazing career. What are you doing now? Just in retirement. I do a little bit of work for Queensland Cricket and other companies just to keep the mind ticking over and to keep the wife happy. So, yeah.
It's funny, I saw you on Gary Jubal and I Catch Killers podcast, and this was after you and I had already spoken, I think, twice on the Triple M network. And while I was watching it, it leads you, the algorithm takes you to other episodes. And there was another mate of mine that I went to school with all through school, David Christie, who was the former 2IC of the Fraud Squad in New South Wales. Do you know David?
I've heard of him, yes.
Oh, he's a funny bloke.
Yep.
If he wasn't such a good police officer, detective, he should have been a stand-up comic. He is genuinely the funniest bloke you'll ever meet.
Yep.
And I've known David for a long time. But anyway, you and I need to get together again soon. How about we talk again about some of the other cases you've been involved with? Because the world's biggest drug bust, the $750 million tomato tin case, is fascinating as well, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It was very fascinating. And what's even come to light about that in relation to the informant.
Well, just as a teaser, tell our listeners what that's about.
What this is about is the importation of about $750 million, over 4,500 ecstasy tablets that came in from Italy. When we were tracking it, it was run by Italian organised crime groups in Australia and Italy and came into a port in Victoria. We had information along the way. We were working with the Piranha Task Force and Victoria Police back then, who had an informant, and this informant knew everything, including the shipment, the container number, the whole lot. You know, it led to the seizing of 4,500 pills, which was done. A number of people were charged in Victoria and other jurisdictions in relation to it. And then a number of years later, it came out that the informant was Lawyer X, a well-known lawyer who represented a lot of the Victorian underbelly.
Yes, I've done a whole podcast on her with Adam Shand. Yes, and she Gobbo, and she's disappeared. She's overseas or somewhere. She's fearing for her life.
Apparently so, and but it was just it was just a fascinating story and about how these pills were coming in, the value of the money, and how it was organised here in Australia. And then you had the Italian mafia involved as well. So it was a very, very interesting set of circumstances.
When you look at tracking that, and that's a fascinating story, we'll go into it on a deeper dive on another episode. But I'm looking at thriving businesses surviving on contraband at the moment. And of course, the moment you have a product that's addictive and very expensive, you create a black market. And I'm talking about the illicit tobacco industry. Yeah. How would you combat that? Would you make legal cigarettes cheaper? Because these tobacco shops are everywhere, and a few of them have got closed down green stickers on the windows, but there's a lot of them still operating. And if they're selling packets of cigarettes for $10 a packet when they normally retail for $60, you got to ask, where do they come from? It would see. What are your thoughts on all of this?
Oh, look, I'm not politically aligned to anyone. I think
I know. I'm not asking for a political statement. I'm from a policing point of view and from a detective's point of view.
I think in Australia we pay far too much in the way of excise on cigarettes, alcohol. Organised crime syndicates see a market for this and see a market to make money. They come in, ride roughshod over a lot of people. You know, they want ownership of everything, so their profits are bigger. The tobacco is coming into Australia. How that's coming in or how it gets through customs checks, I'm not 100% certain. It's not only tobacco. You look at gambling, and I can talk about the racing industry. You've got Asian organised crime that run offshore regulated betting. It's all about them making a huge profit. What people don't realise is when they subscribe to this offshore betting, they're giving details. So you've got an organised crime group that's aware of your details. Tobacco is another one. So how do we, police can go in, it's like drugs. You know, you have a heroin dealer. You wipe that heroin dealer out, there's already someone to move in because they know the business is lucrative.
Oh, heroin, that's old hat now. No,
that's old hat.
Oh, God, gee, get with the times. You are a dinosaur. Heroin.
I'm a dinosaur, but I'm talking from my Valley days, which is a little bit similar to King's Cross.
Yeah, many years ago. Yeah.
That's right. And, you know, we had the heroin dealers running around. You take them out and there's someone to step in their shoe. So it's the same here. How do you close this illegal tobacco industry down, and it's a joint effort between a lot of various law enforcement, customs, state jurisdictions, federal stuff, legislation. How do you do it? How do you cut the organised crime syndicates running this off at the knees so you take the profitability out of it? So as you're saying, the reduction of prices of cigarettes, is that something that the government really needs to consider doing?
Well, I tell you what, the next thing is all the hit and runs you'll see at service stations, people filling up and pissing off, covering up their number plates. You watch. You watch. Hey, listen, Mark Ainsworth, it's always great to talk. Thank you so much. You're always really generous with your time with me. And can we catch up again soon to talk other legal matters?
Sounds great. Thanks very much, Luke, and have a fantastic day.
Just give me 1 sec, guys. I'm just going to
Kelsey, you're supposed to be the technical genius.
Oh, there's Scotty.
The good thing about Scotty Phillips from the Motley Fool, welcome back for another Man Cave, brother.
Thank you, Luke. Always a scary place being in the cave, but you'll keep me safe, I know.
There's a lot to talk about, mate. This is going to be a very quick Man Cave. Kelsey's just trying to...
And there we go. We've got Adam there as well. Say hello.
Okay. So we're all on board for a live Man Cave. We haven't done a live Man Cave. This could get very, very dangerous.
It could. Sure. It really could.
Vice Captain.
Yes.
How's your week been?
Yeah, very good week this week. Saw some interesting things. Yesterday I went out to have a look at an estate from the public trustee, which means the gentleman has passed away and there's no family. In this estate, I found a 1 kilo gold coin.
Ooh.
Really?
Yep. So they were made by the Mint. Retail for about $211,000.
Jeez Louise. Do you say 1 kilo coin?
It's a 1 kilo coin. I have to get it XRF tested to make sure it's legit.
So if you had that in the change zipper pocket of your wallet and lost it, you'd be aware.
You would be.
Yeah.
It's a kilo.
Unbelievable. The Vice Captain, Adam McDonald, star of the television show Aussie Pickers. He's with Evans Hastings. He's an auctioneer. He finds memorabilia. He finds things of worth. And then he sells them. He flips them. I'm going to get to you in a minute, Adam, because there's something I want you to chase up, which I think anyone my vintage will relate to. But then I want to talk about other issues of the day. But Scotty Phillips from the Motley Fool, the man people trust with their investments, and he's always got great advice. Scotty, welcome, mate.
Thanks, Luke. G'day, Adam.
Yeah. So the government's finally admitted we have a petrol fuel crisis here in Australia after denying it for a while. And the moment you admit it, of course, that instigates panic buying, which they're trying to avoid. There's going to be a national cabinet meeting on Monday. I think it should be more than a cabinet meeting. I think every premier should be also at it, because you can't make one rule in Canberra without the states all being in agreement. So I think it's a waste of time until they get the premiers in the same room as well. But what do you make of this cabinet meeting, Scotty?
Mate, I completely agree with you. It's about time they've done it. They're way too late. Look, to give the government a little tiny bit of credit, as you said yourself, once you admit there's a crisis, it's all over, right? So every treasurer ever has always said, the economy is wonderful, everything's fine, the future's bright. Why? Because as soon as you don't, someone says, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? What's going on? So you've got to sort of take that with a bit of a grain of salt. Your point, though, is absolutely valid. I think we're down to 23 or 24 that's a jet fuel. So these all is, we know, out of stock in a lot of barrels around the country. Unleaded can't be too far behind if we're not careful. And of course, you and your listeners well know diesel gets stuff around the country. We're a very big country with a very long distance between our ports, our factories and distribution centres and the final customer. That breaks down real fast if we don't get this right.
Yeah, and please, Vice Captain, feel free, put your hand up and join in when you've got something you want to ask. But
Sure.
Just for those who have only joined us, Kelsey and I have been on the air for 45 minutes. And
talking shit.
Well, no, this isn't shit. The news overnight from Washington, I've just spoken to Jonathan Kersley, who was the Washington bureau chief from Sky News, and you would have heard this by now, that the United States has offered a 15-point peace plan to Iran. They are going through Pakistan. Pakistan is the intermediary here because Qatar, that used to negotiate these things, has also been bombed by Iran, and they're not as neutral as perhaps they should be. So Pakistan is the referee in all of this. When Caroline Levitt was asked, well, what's the 15-point plan? She said, we can't tell you. However, there is a plan on the table. Iran has come back and said, well, we want some input here. This is all, hearsay. None of us have read the agreements, but they're saying Iran has said, well, we want the right to remain a sovereign state. We want our leaders to be our leaders, not puppets of Donald Trump. Okay, we will promise not to continue to develop nuclear weapons, but we want our own weapons. Trump has then said, this is all allegedly, okay, but your missiles will be limited in the distance that they can travel. And so it goes on. But Trump says he's feeling very optimistic and that things and control of the Strait of Hormuz may soon be under control. Vice Captain, what do you make of all of this?
I don't know what to think of it, to be honest, Skipper. It's an absolute bun fight. The way out of it is not gonna happen in a 15-point bloody plan. Like, it's so complex. There's so many levels. There's so many issues. And to be honest, with Donald at the top, I don't see it ending well.
I also allegedly part of the Iran's demands are that they want repatriation. They want monetary repatriation for the damage that's been done. Trump will probably say, "Let's turn it into another resort." You've got beautiful ocean views of the Hormuz Strait.
Oh my God!
Anything can happen here. Just talking about the flow-on effect, if you'll pardon the pun, of the scarcity of fuel in this country. It's been brought to our attention that the garbage trucks in Sydney could be planning a strike because they're saying that part of the rescue package for essential diesel vehicles doesn't include garbage trucks. Now, I don't care who wants to go first on all of this, but they've got a point.
Yeah.
If the garbage trucks
but aren't the garbage trucks owned by council?
But they run on diesel.
Yeah, but so it's council complaining.
No, a lot of them are subcontracted out, Kelsey.
Oh,
the
I
council
see.
URN, who does us, is a separate business.
Oh, yeah.
And Northern Beaches Council contracts them to collect our garbage.
Yep.
Scotty?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Look, here's the other thing, right? When we start picking winners, all we're saying really is we're going to be in trouble. And frankly, no one wants garbage sitting around on the streets not being collected. Whether it needs to be a big deal, I suspect that probably gets solved pretty quickly. It might be one of those things that could be solved with a phone call. Hey, guys, don't forget us. Know you want your garbage or don't you? They're going to find a pretty easy solution to that one pretty quickly. But yeah, absolutely. And this is the challenge, right? We think about who needs diesel. And you start by saying, well, obviously it's trucks. And then obviously it's emergency services.
Farmers.
Farmers, yeah. Then it's collecting rubbish. Then it's, and you think, well, you start going back and say, who doesn't need it? Who can do without it? Do we stop tradies getting it? Do the work sites come to a standstill? I mean, at some point we're going to have to ration. We're going to have to make those hard decisions. But the reality is right now we're dealing with an economy that needs diesel, needs unleaded to operate. We talk about the absence of Strait of Hormuz oil, about 20% of the world's oil. Start taking the Australian economy with that 20% of our oil. Okay, you can decide who misses out, who doesn't. The economic damage alone from this, let alone whether the garbage gets picked up, will be phenomenal. So this has got to get resolved. Trump started the unilateral war. I mean, God love him, but here we are again. Had he at least had some sort of plan for this, supply, price, some sort of pre-negotiation, some sort of 15-point plan on day one. Hey guys, we're about to do these 15 things. We'll leave you alone. Okay, we'll start bombing and then you tell us when you're ready. To wait to this point and then start the sue for peace after the price is up phenomenally. Shortages are already in place. Farmers and truckies can't get enough diesel. I mean, typical Trump, unfortunately. I'm not a big fan, as you guys know. But fair income. This needs to be resolved quickly. The economic damage that comes from it, even from now, even if it stopped right now, the oil is not in the country. The oil refining, the oil drilling infrastructure that's been destroyed in the Middle East is going to have to be rebuilt over months. So the longer this goes, the longer, frankly, we have to wait resolved, and then again until everything gets back to normal.
Scotty Phillips. Incidentally, we're live, so you can call us on 0291289311. Have your say.
Yes, and just quickly, I want to bring something up, Scotty, because I saw your post. Somebody used your face to scam other people. Can you tell us about this?
What's happened?
Scumbags, right? So it wasn't even just my face. I do stuff on Channel 9, right? I do the finance report on Channel 9's late news during the week, Sunday to Thursday. And so that stuff's online. And so you got the newsreader doing the intro. I'm giving an answer back and forth a couple of times. That's how it happens. Right? So that's the setup. Why does that matter? Because someone has taken that video, overdubbed me answering a question, basically saying, actually, what you should do is trade stocks, and you'll make $200 the first day, then $400 the next day, $800 the day after that. Just click the link below and join my trading scheme. And I got to say, I've had this done to me once before. Last time was a really bad British accent. It was one of those kind of super obvious it wasn't me. This time, it's clearly not me, but not much. If you didn't know me, if you hadn't seen me, if you only seen me once or twice, it's close enough that if you weren't paying attention, you mightn't realize it's actually not me.
Yeah.
But here is me, in inverted commas, on YouTube ads saying, join my trading program. Someone's going to do it, and someone's going to call me up and say, Phillips, you ripped me off.
Yeah.
I'm a nobody, right? But it's happened to Twiggy, and it's happened to David Koch, it's happened to
David
Scott
Koch,
Pape and plenty of other people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is sort of things happening. And as I said, the AI voice now is, last time it was 20%. This time it's probably 85, 90%.
Yeah, it's close.
Clearly not me if you've heard me more than once. But if you haven't, you're not paying attention, you see my face, you hear the voice, close enough, I guarantee someone's been scammed by it. It's just an awful thing to have to be kind of the face of, which is awful.
It's really scary. God, 85%. I mean, how long till it's 99.9?
Look, that's it, right? We're not far away.
Just Vice Captain Adam McDonald, just something that I think we'll all have a comment on here. I've already had my say, and I want to hear from you two guys, and the millennials had time to absorb this story. This is news breaking overnight, just through today. Overnight, a court in New Mexico has ordered Meta to pay $375 million for misleading users over the safety of its platforms for children. A jury has found Meta, which obviously owns Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, was liable for the way in which its platforms endangered children and exposed them to sexually explicit material and contact with sexual predators. Now, this has been in court for a month. I thought it was going to take a lot more, but the precedent has been set. Obviously, Zuckerberg can appeal all of this, but it really has now laid down the lines, and all the other social media platforms would be absolutely pooing themselves, wouldn't they?
They would be, and so they should be. The accountability for people like the Meta Corporation has not been there. Like, it's just been like the Wild West. You just get away with anything. I think it's a good thing, like, especially with Instagram and platforms like that. Like this, it's like almost lawless.
Yeah.
I was speaking to a dear friend of mine just yesterday about her 17-year-old daughter, and is just constantly harassed and by young men online because she's a pretty young lady, and it's really hard. Like her daughter was just saying, I've had enough of these boys and these men just constantly harassing me.
Yeah.
There are other lawsuits, court cases that I think are going to happen. There is a woman also in the United States saying that the irresponsible behaviour of I think she's naming Meta again, has caused her anxiety and stress due to bullying. And it looks like the chickens are coming home to roost for Zuckerberg, who probably should have put tighter reins on all of this a long, long time ago. But, he's obsessed with making money. Is he put money before responsibility?
Oh, gotcha. I mean, let's be real about this. They've deliberately and forever tuned their algorithms to suck us in and keep us engaged, to keep us addicted, to deliver stuff they know we emotionally respond to. Why? Because you show us an ABC News feed, we click through and we go and do something else. You show us stuff with the cute puppies and the horrible things that happen and the outrage and the clickbait and everything else, and you say, hey, get more of this stuff. We're animals. We are not that far off the forest floor, right? So every part of our brain that is subconscious, is built over millions and millions and billions of years of evolution. And so we are just absolutely, we're bringing a knife to a gunfight with this stuff. Social media has been great. We're streaming this on Facebook. I spend a lot of time on Twitter. When it's used well, it's really great. The fact these guys have been allowed to effectively screw with us, and we know it, and we can't help it because our brains aren't evolved enough to deal with social media, to deal with the algorithms, to deal with the cortisol and the dopamine injections that we get every time we use this stuff. It is predatory. Right, that's the problem.
Oops.
Oh, the technical genius.
I pressed the button.
Can I get some applause then? Can I get some applause?
I pressed the button.
Okay.
And that's one thing, right? So this is deliberately designed to screw with us. That's exactly what it's designed for. And unless we say to them, that's not cool. Remember back in the old days, you guys are old enough to remember subliminal advertising was a thing for a week and a half?
Yeah.
And that's, it's entirely unethical because we don't know we're being shown a message, and yet we are. That's a great example. And we can see that, so it's obvious. The algorithm you can't always see. But the echo chambers it creates, frankly, some of the social unrest stuff at both ends of the political spectrum comes from all my diet on social media are the things I already think, I already believe, things that Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, Instagram serve me to suck me in and make me want to be engaged with this thing. It is awful. So yeah, I'm a big fan of capitalism. I'm a big fan of free-ish speech, not entirely free speech, but close enough. When you use a platform like this to screw with people in what's effectively a predatory way, because we're not opting into it, we're being sold it, we're being delivered it, we're being, they're curating a news feed. That's what I've got massive, massive issues with.
Okay, now there's a topic, Vice Captain, I'll bring you in here because you are the father of a young man, very well adjusted, and you've shared parenting with this young man, but he's turned out very, very well. But I was talking to my stepdaughter, Chook, yesterday, and we were talking about the effect devices have on young brains, let alone adult brains. And I was looking at a very interesting documentary the other morning with a child psychologist who said half the problem now is with social media and electronic devices is that the humans are meant to defrag, decompress, and reset. And because we are constantly being bombarded with electronic messages and games and advertising, no one anymore is allowed to get bored. And boredom is actually good for you mentally. To turn off, have no messages put at you, and just defrag. And we've lost the art of being bored because we are constantly craving entertainment. Your thoughts, Vice Captain and Millennial?
Oh, it's totally true. I mean, people take their phones to the bathroom when they're going to the toilet because it's not that 5 minutes of silence. Like you've got to sit there scrolling. It's a thing. Like, again, I was speaking to a friend the other day about this, how what she does is once a week she'll go out in her backyard, sit by the fire for a couple of hours with nothing, no phone, the phone stays inside. And she said it's mentally, because she's got a quite intense job with social issues, she needs that couple of hours a week where it's just silence and listens to the galahs and just actually sitting there in nature and listening. And she said it gets to a point where she can hear herself breathe, she can feel her heartbeat, and it's just so cathartic. And she said if she doesn't do it once a week, she'd go absolutely. She'd have a breakdown because of her workspace.
But back in the day when we were evolving, mankind was either hunting for food or trying to escape and stay safe from predators. So when did we used to switch off? When we were asleep, or when we built a safe place to live where we knew we were going to be warm because we had fire and we knew that we were safe from predators, but we didn't have social media, so you defragged. That's right. And concentrated on reproduction.
Yeah, everybody needs it. Like it's a wonderful thing. Like silence is a wonderful thing. And if you have a think about it, how often do you have 5 minutes of silence? You never do. The phone's ringing, the cars are going past, aeroplanes, sirens. You know, the neighbours arguing, like it's a thing. Like
My brain is never silent though, ever.
Yeah,
even when I'm in silence.
Yeah.
I've got ADHD.
There's got to be a way you've got to be able to switch off.
Yeah, I know, but it's hard. My switching off, I decompress by scrolling on TikTok. That's how I decompress.
I'll tell you something interesting. In 1977, and you can check this out, New York was subject to a huge blackout. It's called the New York blackout. And it was July of 1977, and nothing worked. No televisions, no radios, nothing. 9 months later, there was a huge population boom.
Yeah, right.
I'm not kidding. It was the great New York City blackout of 1977. It's true.
Mm.
And in March the next year, all these children were being born. I'm just saying. I'm just pointing it out. Kelsey, we've got some voice messages.
Yes, we had one voice message from someone called Andrew, and he was listening to one of the old man caves, and he sent us through a voice message. So let's have a listen. Hopefully you guys can hear this.
Hello, Luke and the Vice Captain. Love the potty. Just listening to one about the Batman collector. And it reminded me of a collector that I met years ago when I was younger. I went to see him. He was a little bit eclectic hippie sort of guy. And after sitting down with him and talking for a little bit, he's let me know that he collects elephant shit. So I was a little bit stunned by it all, I guess, and got talking to him about it. And what he'd do is he'd go to the zoos and the local circus when the circus was in town, and he used to collect the shit, the elephant shit.
Oh, my God.
And you'd take it home and lacquer it if they were a good shape. If they weren't a good shape, he would make it into fertilizer for his indoor tomatoes.
This is not real.
I think it is.
So he pulled this box out with all this lacquered elephant shit and showing me. And he's going, look at that one. Isn't it a beauty? Oh, look at the shape. Oh, you can't have that one. That's worth $30. And so he pulled out a different one, and it had a bit of a dent in it sort of thing. He goes, look at that one.
Oh, my God.
That could be an ashtray.
Now, Luke, that message goes on a lot longer, but we've got someone very special on the line. If you want to put up your fader, it is Granny Sue.
A lot longer, but we've got someone very special on the line.
She's listening to the live stream.
Granny Sue, you got to turn your...
Granny Sue, turn your computer microphone off.
Oh, that's the old days, isn't it? Remember that?
Yeah, turn your radio down.
Turn your radio down.
You turn your radio down.
Okay, I remember.
Hello, Granny Sue.
Welcome, Granny.
We were just talking about you. Did you hear us?
No, because I slept in.
Listen, we've got a young boy called Fergo. He's 14. He's from Broken Hill, and he wants to be a truckie. His dad's a truckie. We met Fergo when we did that road trip to Dubbo, and we want to get you and Fergo on a podcast very soon because he's a terrific kid. He's salt of the earth. He wears these work boots, shorts. He's got a mullet, and he wears a hat, and he wants to be a truckie, and he can drive a truck now.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Anyway, thank you for listening and calling in.
Well, I told her to call in. Yeah.
I do try and do what I'm told.
Yeah, we love Granny Sue. Granny, how have you been? You've been sick recently.
Yeah, I have. I had this, I don't know, I started off with tonsillitis and then it went down into my throat, and even now it takes me till about lunchtime before I can eat anything because I can't get rid of the phlegm out of my throat.
Oh, gross.
Yeah, that's not what I said, but anyway.
Listen, we hope you're okay, but I'm going to bring you in on a topic, and I was going to save this for a bit later, but you're here now, and I've already had my say on this, but so I'm going to let the panel have their say. So I can see you all. Put your hand up when you have an opinion. There is a huge e-bike crackdown underway, Granny Sue. we've got problems, and your state of Queensland's trying to lead the way with an under 16 banning of all e-bikes, and also holding parents of kids who are using their e-bikes illegally, or the parents of kids who are riding illegal e-bikes, that's ones that have been tripped up, having them legally responsible as well, and fining the parents, making the parents more responsible for their children's behaviour. Who wants to go first? Granny Sue, go on.
Okay, well, I think that's a good idea, but I don't know how it's going to be seen or tried to fix. One of my granddaughters had an e-bike, and yes, she was doing things that she shouldn't have, and yes, she got into trouble and has now sold the bike just because she decided she would be more responsible. But I think probably that's the only way to go, but it goes back to everything. All these kids that are doing the wrong thing, are their parents to blame, or is it society, or is it them just being in a gang?
Okay, I'll put this to the Vice Captain then, Scotty. Vice Captain, should parents be held legally responsible for their children's behaviour? We are talking about e-bikes, but you can generalise if you want.
I think they should. I would happily take responsibility for Wonderboy's behaviour. You know, I've raised him in a separated family along with his mother to be a good guy, to not be a hooligan or a hoon, and I take full responsibility of that. So I'll take the good with the bad. So if he messes around and does stuff that he shouldn't, I'm more than happy to take that fall for him,
Scotty,
because I raise him.
Okay, and you're out of the woods now. Your son's over 18 and he's turned out really well, and it's kudos on you, mate. Well done. Scotty Phillips, also in Queensland, your child will not be able to ride an e-bike or an e-scooter until they're 16, and only if they have a learner's driver's licence. But what do you make of all of this? Should parents be held responsible?
Mate, there's so much I want to say, and I want to try and keep it brief. Yes, they should be held responsible. We talked about sitting by the campfire or getting outside and what our brains and our society is used to, right? Think about Fergo. Fergo's 14, can drive a truck. Now, at some level, we say you can't drive a truck on the road, so that's fair enough. But also, he's a smart young kid doing the right thing, head screwed on, obviously raised well. He's going in the right direction, right? My young bloke's 13. He's about a week away from getting his boat license. Now, there are restrictions between 12 and 16 on a boat license. You've got to drive at a certain speed and do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And think about the kids in generations that have gone past, our generation, our parents' generation. They were out shooting guns at 9. And again, I'm not saying everyone should do that necessarily. I guess they need to be responsible, and parents need to be accountable. I'm not sure whether banning everything until kids get to X age is the right thing to do. Maybe it's necessary in our modern society. Maybe because both parents are working and we're in urban environments and e-bikes are fast and dangerous. I kind of get that. On the other hand, I kind of feel like we didn't have to baby kids. I mean, kids carried pocket knives and BB guns, and yes, someone got shot with a BB gun, and yes, a kid came himself with a knife, but I'm not sure we're better off by banning stuff. At some point, we've got to say, there's a responsibility of parents, absolutely. The Vice Captain's 100% right. But at some point, you say, where are we falling down that we say parents haven't got the time, the interest, the opportunity to give their kids that stuff? Where's the kind of, the time outside, learning those responsibilities, plural? That's the stuff I think we're missing. And I don't know that saying just ban it, then allow it. I mean, 16-year-old all of a sudden going from no e-bike to e-bike, social media ban, same kind of problem, right? 15 months,
exactly
15 years,
right.
11 months, no good. 16 years and a month, knock yourself out, everything's free. I don't know that we're getting this right. I think we're kind of taking this bureaucratic ban it approach rather than responsible usage. I love Queensland saying get your L's first. I think it's a great way to do it. But like a boat license, what about an e-bike license for 12-year-olds or 14-year-olds? Going through those things, understanding what's required. Maybe we still don't let them. Maybe it's still under a certain power or something else. I'm just not sure that we're doing it the right way. We're dealing with the animals from the bottom of the cliff, not the fence itself.
I think banning it till everyone's 16. So Joey down the street turns 16. He gets, on the same day, he gets an e-bike, he gets Instagram, he gets all these things piled on him.
Yep.
He's got no idea how to use it or the power
100%.
it is. And then all of a sudden he's 16 and the world's his oyster. Going to go pear-shaped. But banning these things and to say you've got to be 16 it's bullshit. You can't do it. It's up to the parents to slowly introduce them and teach the children how to responsibly use these platforms and bikes and anything in life. It's up to the parents to do it. But you touched on it there, Scotty. Some parents don't have the time. You know, like the people, the working world these days is quite intense. You know, both parents at work just trying to make ends meet. So the kids are they get themselves to school, they come home, mum and dad are home by 6 o'clock, they cook dinner, they go to bed. So actual parenting time is being cut down because of the way society is. So it is a hard thing, but as a parent, you need to make time. Even if you sit with your kids for half an hour a night, how was your day?
Okay.
What did you get up to?
I'll tell you. I'll bring Granny Sue in here, who's worked in pubs. I'll tell you something that's really, I've thought quite unjust over many years. If a licensee, a publican, gets caught with underaged drinkers on their premises, they can get, in New South Wales, an $11,000 fine or imprisonment. Now, how many young kids have fake ID, do their best to look over 18, smuggle themselves into some poor bastard's pub, and it gets past the doorman who are under strict instructions to check ID, but they somehow get in and the publican gets caught. He gets an $11,000. He gets an $11,000 fine.
Yeah.
But what about the kid that's gone out of its way with false?
You can get in trouble though. I
never got caught. But I'm just saying. but I'm just saying. Don't you think that's unfair, Granny Sue?
Yeah, I do think it's unfair. But do you also realise that underage can work behind the bar?
No, they can't
as long as
serve
they don't
alcohol.
go outside the bar.
If they've got an RSA, if you're over 16, I'm pretty sure.
No, because I went up to...
Yeah, you can, because I was serving alcohol when I was working in a cafe, but I had to have my RSA.
Oh, I didn't think you were allowed to serve it.
Yeah.
No,
You have to have your
as long as
RSA.
you have an RSA,
Right,
yes,
okay.
and you definitely can.
Right.
But you can't go outside and pick up glasses or anything. You just have to stay behind the bar, yes.
Now, Andrew here, he says, sorry, that argument falls down as soon as you say it's up to the parents. What do you think about that?
What do you mean?
The argument falls down, so it shouldn't be the responsibility of parents.
If a parent's allowing their child to ride a tripped-up e-bike and allowing their kids out this window every morning at this time, I see kids going down to our high school, sometimes 3 on a bike, all 3 of them looking at their phones and no helmets. Now, maybe you're going to tell me their parents don't know they're doing that? Maybe they don't.
Maybe they don't. But there's got to be, I mean, Sue also said most kids with illegal bikes have them because of the parents. So, you've got to be, isn't that the role of a parent to be responsible for your children? Like, isn't that the whole point? Because kids can't be like, under the law, if a kid is a parent at a younger age, that parent can't be forced to pay child support to the other because they're a child. So, kind of comes in here too.
Boys?
I don't understand.
I'm a bit lost too.
I drove a motor car from when I was about 9. As soon as I could reach the pedals, sometimes I had to put a pillow behind me. And I also learned to shoot a gun way back then. But, of course, my parents had time, I suppose, because we were on a station. And also, these kids in town are very much in trouble with peer pressure and what their mates are doing, and they've got to be able to fit in, and because that's just the way things are right now, and parents don't really have the right to tell them no if that's what they want.
Well, they should.
Which is, part of the problem.
Parents should have the right to say no, but the kids listen. You've got kids coming home from school now saying, in class today we were taught that we have rights and that I can divorce my parents. And in fact, I can get the department to give me a living away from home allowance. I'm serious. What? Parents today have got their hands tied behind their back and then being told to fight.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
I mean, I can just imagine me saying something like that to my father.
Oh, God.
And
I would have used it. I would have used
I
it.
know what had happened to me if I said that.
He would have kicked me in the ass.
Yeah, because back in the day, you'd say to your parents, why? And they said, because I said so.
Yeah.
And that was enough. And and if they said, I'm going to count to 3, you wanted to hope to hell that if they got to 3, you could run.
When I was younger, I used to think saying to Mum, I don't love you, would like cause her to like give me what I wanted. Never worked. Never worked. Emotional manipulation never worked on my mum.
You're the worst out in the world.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
and Nikki just used to say, I don't give a rat's ass. She would say, you're not going to your friend's birthday party. God, I remember that day.
Yes.
It was in this room, which used to be Kelsey's bedroom, in the studio, and she's lying on the floor like a dying fly in a Mortein commercial, and she's got her feet up on the wall. Because Nikki got on the phone to this girl's mother and said, Kelsey's not coming to the birthday party.
Yeah, so it was sad.
And then Nikki just shut the door, dragged the bed in, because they're polished floorboards, pulled Kelsey into the bedroom and shut the door, and that was it.
It was over.
And that was it. God bless her.
And if she'd been now, she would have been in trouble with the police. The police would have been there next day for deprivation of liberty.
Yeah, deprivation of liberty, exactly. I will tell you one thing about old-fashioned parenting. Because of people like my mother, we added to the economy and the manufacture of wooden spoons.
Oh, my God. Now,
What was
Luke,
good for the country, Luke?
you wanted to talk about iconic Australian cereal toys.
Yes, I was having a conversation.
What's this about?
I was having a conversation with a bloke I went to school with. This is for everybody, but first the vice captain who's an expert. And Granny Sue, I want you in on this.
Oh, okay.
We're having a discussion about collectibles. And my mate said to me, do you remember the great toys that we used to get in the cereal packets? I said, yes. And all I could come up with was Crater Critters. And basically, Kelsey, you'd get your Cocoa Pops, which we were never allowed, but rice bubbles or cornflakes, anything Kellogg's. I think it was a Kellogg's thing.
Yeah.
Vice Captain will fill us all in a second. But there was a little plastic toy inside, often inside a separate plastic wrapper. Sometimes they were in 2 halves and you had to click it together.
Yeah, like a Happy Meal.
Sometimes it was in a frame with 4 pieces and you had to click it together. Sometimes it was all together. And Crater Critters, I remember there was a thing called Thule Birds. And so he said, next time you're talking to the vice captain, can you ask him about iconic Australian breakfast cereal toys and why did they stop? Probably safety, because kids could swallow them. I have no idea.
That's exactly right.
Adam, you take over. You're the expert. You take over.
That's exactly right. I think they stopped because people would eat them. And and then they'd say they'd try and sue the company. So those sort of giveaways, they had to stop. But do you remember Wall Walkers?
No.
Yes.
It was like a
Scotty.
It was like a
No, go on.
It was like a rubber, like a plastic. It almost looked like an octopus, and you'd chuck it at the wall, and it was all sticky, and it'd slowly walk.
I used to love those things.
No, before my time.
Yeah, so they started in cereal packets. That's where they came out of. But it used to be
the theme song was Willie the Wall Walker
huge
walks
thing
down
that,
walls. Was the ad they
like
used to run?
Snap, Crackle and Pop from
Rice
Bubbles and Sam Toucan from
Frosties.
Fruit Loops.
Oh, Sam Toucan was Fruit Loops, yeah.
Yeah, Frosties had a
Tiger.
Tiger, yeah.
Yeah, Cocoa Pops had Coco the monkey. Just like a chocolate milkshake on the crunchy.
That's right. And they used to have all these little mascots.
Snap, Crackle and Pop.
And you'd get the little toys in it, but it's basically people started eating them, and there would have been lawsuits. So, you've got to level the playing field.
What were some of the popular?
Is it natural selection?
What were some of the more popular?
It is natural selection.
Yeah, that's Darwinism at its best. I say bring it back. Tell me this: what was some of the most popular? Well, I've just mentioned Crater Critters and Thule Birds. You said Wall Walkers. I remember there was a little horse thing that was in pieces. And it had movable legs, and if you held it at the right tilt, it would kind of walk a little bit, little plastic. What were some of the most popular Australian breakfast cereal toys?
The most popular ones were the little, like the horse, the little animals, and they like you'd get one month you'd get the chickens would be in there, then there'd be other animals, but I think the farmyard animals were the most popular, and the war walkers, like they were epic. Everybody loved the war walkers.
Are they worth anything? Like if somebody had a wall walker in pristine condition, would they be worth something?
Well, the thing is with the wall walkers, once you throw it on the wall and it hits the carpet, it's ruined because it's covered in fluff and you can't get that shit off.
Yeah, bloody hell. And try asking for your money back. Granny Sue, did you ever experience breakfast cereal toys?
No, because we didn't have cereal. We were out on the station. You didn't have cereal.
Yeah, duh.
Mum cooked breakfast.
Did you?
So no, never did.
What about for your
and when
sons?
My kids, well, when they were growing up, they never had time for breakfast because they're always in a hurry to get to school. Because you went to school to play with your friends and eat your lunch.
Yeah.
So they said.
All right. Well, geez, I'm glad I brought you in on that one, Granny Sue.
Oh, yeah, I was a big help.
Yeah. Next time we want to learn how to start a fire by rubbing two sticks together, you're on, okay?
Yeah, that's a bit harsh.
Adam, are they worth anything if they're in good condition?
Yeah, they can be. There is quite a collectible market behind vintage cereal toys, as same as like cigarette cards. You know, they used to get cards in your pack of cigarettes that would have sporting memorabilia and sporting stars on it all the time.
Your bubblegum cards, they were great.
Like
and they smelt of the bubblegum for ages, yeah.
Scratch and sniff stickers.
Is that what happens when you don't wipe your ass properly?
Hey, no.
I read somewhere that if you go into a restroom at a restaurant, no matter how good the hand soap smells, never walk out back into the restaurant sniffing your fingers.
Yes.
It's not a good look. I just some etiquette tips there for you here on the
life tips.
Life tips by Luke Boner here on the Man Cave. Granny Sue, didn't you collect anything as a kid, or were you just too busy?
Just too busy wrangling bulls.
Cattle.
No, we didn't have, I guess, nothing like that. No. It's a bit more difficult when you're out on the station and you're 300 k's away from a shop and your groceries get delivered once a month and you don't get anything that's sort of interesting anyway. So there's nothing really to collect.
You didn't have anything your parents thought was unnecessary. I get that. Granny Sue, I'm going to let you go, my darling. Thank you so much. I hope you feel better soon. I'm going to send you some Nature Bee.
Oh, you're a good man. Thank you.
Yeah, and for your fingers, some Power Pollen soap.
Oh, God.
Thanks, Luke.
Stay there. Oh, no, we know your details.
We know
where to find you. Oh, well, before you go, Granny Sue, Far North Queensland, Yorkie's Knob. What's the fuel?
Yes.
What's the fuel situation?
A bit desperate. It's up to $3.90 in some places.
What? $3.90?
What?
Yes, and a lot of the stations are out of fuel. Sometimes for a week or so at a time before they get more, and I think it's only going to get worse.
No, $3.90 is
before it gets better.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Has the price?
Hey, Kelsey, you were talking the other day about strange jobs. One of my jobs was working in a fuel station, doing all that, filling the cars.
Oh, the fuel attendant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so when you worked at the fuel station and you were this is when they were service stations, what was your job? What did you have to do?
I had to fill the car, wash the windscreen, check the oil and water, and check the tyres mostly.
Yeah. Oh, bring it back. I need someone to do that to my car.
Yeah.
No.
If you've ever observed this in Bali, anywhere in Bali, the service stations have attendants in uniforms.
Yeah.
Even
bring them back.
Even the motorbikes, you cannot fill it up yourself. Granny Sue, we love you.
That's good to talk to you again, and I'm pleased I'm back in the land of the living, and I'm pleased that everything's starting to go good.
Oh, love you, Granny Sue.
Your Nature Bee is going to be in the mail. It recommended 2 a day because it's just pure pollen. It is so good for you. Nothing added. It's just nature. But if you're feeling a bit crook, you can take 3 because it's a food. It's not a drug. So there's Power Pol and Nature B. If it wasn't for Cookie and Nature B, we wouldn't be here. We'll let Granny Sue get back to whatever she's doing with Yorkies.
Not collecting toys from cereal boxes.
Yeah, exactly. So I've just got to say something that was in the news which amused me. There was a bloke who has exposed himself. And by the way, I was hoping to get through today's broadcast, Kyle and Jackie O free, and we nearly got there. But this guy's come on and said that he was a stage stooge caller, and they actually paid him to ring up because he was good at doing voices, and he would pretend to be a caller, and it was quite entertaining, but they never were transparent about it. They just treated him as a caller. And I couldn't help but smile because this is nothing new. Lawsy used to do it all the time. He had people who were on the payroll, and they'd ring up and they would say something outrageous, and it would get the phones going. I witnessed Stan Zemanek doing it, and there was one bloke, one of Stan's great regular callers, Gazza. Do you remember that, Scotty? Adam?
That rings a vague bell.
Yeah, Gazza the Dole Bludger. Well, when I was Gazza the Dole Bludger, and Stan loved it. You're a Dole Bludger, yeah.
So, tee off him, yeah.
Yeah. Well, when I was at 2CC in Canberra, I used to have a beer every now and then at the Eagle Hawk Hotel, which is just outside of the ACT. It's just inside the New South Wales border. It was on my way home. And the guy came up, and I heard this Gazza's voice behind me, and he introduced himself. He said, I was Gazza. and he used to get a fee. So
that's great.
So it's nothing new, but anyway, there you go. I want to invite our listeners. Has anyone actually got a cereal box toy that they've kept? Can you take a photo of it?
Yeah,
I want to see it. I want to see it bad. Bring back some memories.
They just go down to Macca's and get a Happy Meal. You get a toy out of that.
I'm talking about the 60s and 70s.
The good old days.
The good old days.
Chokeable toys.
You know, good.
We're reliving our childhood here, mate. That's what this podcast's about.
The good old chokeable toys. Please bring them back and let Darwin's theory get to work. So, look, Adam, what do you got? You're with Evans Hastings.
Yes.
What have you got coming up?
I've got an interesting little sale online at the moment. If you have a look, it's called the Echoes of History.
Ooh.
It's got some moon landings photos. It's got some early photos of the Queen.
And you're a believer now, Adam, aren't you?
Nah.
You said that you were a believer in the moon landing now. Are you retracting that statement?
You got the...
I'm retracting it.
What?
Does that mean that you're selling fraudulent goods? I mean, if it never happened, then surely you can't be selling these things.
Well, I've described them as they are. They're just slides of it's just an image. Like it's yeah.
Hang on. Let me get this.
Have a look online. Go.
Hang on.
Go to Evans Hastings.
I'm looking at that right
the
now.
history sale. You can have a look at the slides. They're too perfect.
Okay, hang on a second. Folks, Adam McDonald has always said one of the biggest hoaxes in the history of the world is the lunar landing. We got Dr. Carl on live with him one morning on Triple M, and Dr. Carl had him for breakfast with a toy in it. But Adam was adamant. Then he's got these discs of the original photographs from NASA, which he's trying to flog on Evans Hastings. And now he believes the lunar. Last week he believed in the lunar landing. He flipped, and now, like when Elton John married Renata, he's flipped again. So
I have flipped again, just like Renata.
You're flipping more than Nadia Comaneci. What's going on?
It's up to you guys to make up your own mind. Do you remember when I was talking about the landing and I thought it was horseshit? We got that. We got an email from a guy in Utah that worked for NASA.
Yeah, that was Gazza from Canberra, I think.
No, it wasn't. Surely not.
Go on.
And he tried to set me. Say, look at that. There it is. You can have a look. That one never made it to the moon.
No, the shuttle didn't go to the moon.
No.
Did it not?
No.
There's some wonderful images in there.
It got
make up your own mind.
2 shuttles got to a meteorite in the Bruce Willis movie, but that's about it.
Yeah. Look, there's an astronaut right there, and look, there's the flag. What do you mean? The other people on the moon?
No, they had cameras.
What other people? There's only 2 there.
Yeah, one had the camera. They had the cameras on their chests.
They still look pretty good to me.
They didn't hold up their iPhone. Or the Kodak Instamatic. They had the cameras on their chest. What?
I still think it's real.
I tell you what, if Buzz was still alive, he'd punch you.
He would too.
He would. So listen, Adam, thank you so much. It's been an interesting man cave. Scotty Phillips, from an economic point of view, and I don't want to leave with a downer, but this war with Iran, we've talked about the 15-point peace plan that Trump has allegedly put towards them, and Pakistan's playing referee here.
Yeah.
Do you think it'll be over sooner than later, or?
Oh, mate, I hope. I mean, look, Trump's Trump, right? Like, trying to frame a market on this is incredibly difficult. Hard enough when there's normal traditional politicians. Love Trump, hate him. He's unpredictable, and God knows what he wants to actually achieve out of this. I suspect pretty quickly the pressure to close this down on economic grounds and, frankly, political ones, with the midterms coming up, gets pretty serious pretty fast. If there's a bad showing at this midterm, it makes the second half of his term not quite lame duck stuff, but not miles away from it. So I suspect he wants to find a solution. I desperately hope for all of us that he finds it. I don't know. I don't know what happens. What I know, mate, is the longer it goes on, the more economic pain we have. I do think we've got to keep a long-term perspective, though. So here's the positive, Luke. We've all been around for a while, except Kelsey, who's a babe in the woods. We've been through dozens of these kind of things, right? Sometimes they happen, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're short, sometimes they're long. We've been through it, and yet we are here, right? And we've got lots of problems, but I wouldn't swap our problems for anybody else's. And the progress we're going to make from here will be astonishing looking back in 10, 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
So, yes, it sucks right now. Yes, it feels awful. And yes, there are people in genuine pain, right? So I'm not glossing over it. But remember, things get better. Just don't dwell. Don't kind of spend too long in the misery of what's happening right now. It will improve. It will get better. We will be better off in a year or 2 years or 5 years' time.
Well, I remember I used to live next door to a family of Jehovah's Witnesses when I was growing up, and 40,000 Jehovah's Witnesses gathered at the SCG ready for Armageddon back in 1972. and they all went there, they prayed, they were waiting for the earthquake, for the heavens to open, and everyone that had done anything wrong to be smitten and be cast into everlasting night. And then they all came home. So,
yep.
So, and I remember the petrol rationing of 1979 with the Iran Revolution. I remember when Russia invaded Afghanistan in 1980, and I had just turned 18, and everyone said we're heading for conscription, and we're all going to war, and we survived that. So let's hope that this is over soon. Yes, I want fuel. I want reliable fuel. I want the economy back on track. But I want to see, seriously, I want to see innocent people stop being killed.
Yep,
yeah.
100%. That's not the hard, is it? Right. That's
exactly.
That needs to be the outcome. Needs to happen soon. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being Pollyanna here, but as you say, Luke, we've been through it before. Sometimes it does go to shit, frankly, for a while, but it always comes out better, and that's kind of the other thing. It doesn't make it okay. It doesn't justify it. Doesn't mean we shouldn't worry about it.
Yeah.
But it does mean don't assume it's the end of the world, because, as you said, mate, Armageddon out of here. That's the story, right? There's so much that's predicted. Doom and gloom is always. It seems smart. It seems compelling. It seems obvious and logical. History tells us exactly the opposite story.
Yeah, that's right. Remember how many religions earn their money by threatening you with Armageddon and the end of the world, and you'll go to hell if you don't follow our rules. It's all going to end very, very soon. The sky's falling in. Just before you go, I usually finish with a thought of the week, but I'm not going to today. This is my advice for the week. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You know when an organisation goes on strike, it's always a good idea to have a bit of leverage behind you. And that is, if you go on strike, well, you want the general public to be put out. You want the general public to really miss you, to show that you're really worth something. Well, the ABC, they downed tools for the first time in 20 years yesterday. They're after improved pay and better working conditions. No one noticed. Can I just say this? And this is my advice. for anyone thinking of going on strike. If you do go on strike, it is really not a bad idea to have the leverage I was talking about. Will the general public be affected? For example, the truckie blockade, Razorback, 1979, stopped the nation. Good strike. They had leverage. The wharfies, they used to go on strike all the time. Remember the mail and the beer strikes at Christmas. They had leverage. Teachers, they go on strike. Parents go, what the bloody hell am I going to do with my children? I want the can this teacher strike be over because I'm sick of my children being home. Seriously, though, essential services, nurses, doctors. I mentioned the beer supplies. I mean, back in the day, you went on strike, you had leverage. I mean, seriously, ABC, you've got no leverage. No one noticed. In fact, the test pattern on the ABC television drew a bigger ratings than Q&A the night before.
Oh, my God.
If you want to go on strike, you want your services to be missed. I'm telling you this for nothing. The people of the eastern suburbs would go ballistic if the cocaine dealers and the hookers went on strike. They've got more leverage than you, ABC.
Oh, boo.
I'll end you with those thoughts of the day.
All right, Luke. Thank you for listening, everyone.
Are we on?
Yeah.
That was fun. Thank you. Please keep tuning in. Please keep contributing. Please keep buying your Nature Bee. It's so good. And contact us. Leave us voice messages. Leave us emails. lukebonaradioguy@gmail.com. Leave a message on 0291289311. We're on the road.
Today, Kangaroo Valley.
And we're going to do, I'll be on Channel 7 on Sunrise.
On Friday. Oh, tomorrow. Shit, yeah.
From Kangaroo Valley.
Woo-hoo.
And I'm looking forward to catching up with Charles Tarby. So that'll be good stuff. I'm just hoping our cars get us there.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
Thank you, linesman.
Thank you.
Thank you, ball boys.
Thank you for listening.